This isn't your DNA. Makina's voice cracked as she held the test in both trembling hands, standing in the golden-lit hallway of the Harrington estate in her maid's uniform, 7 months pregnant with twins she'd been paid $5 million to carry. Anthony staggered back with a hand over his mouth, while Andrew stared at her with a cold, narrowing suspicion. They had both believed they fathered her babies, until the paper she clutched shattered that illusion. Her phone buzzed in her apron pocket. You opened it too soon. Another buzz. A photo appeared, her 8-year-old sister, Laya, tied to a chair, eyes red from crying. The next message made Makina's stomach drop. Don't tell them the truth. Not yet. If the children inside her didn't belong to either Harrington brother, then whose babies was she carrying? And who had been watching her closely enough to know the exact second she opened that envelope? Makina never imagined her name would become the center of a billion-dollar scandal. She never imagined reporters waiting outside a penthouse because of her. And she never imagined the truth growing inside her body would be powerful enough to destroy an empire. But tonight, everything changed. The storm outside slammed rain against the windows as Makina sat on the cold marble floor, her back pressed to the wall, her hands shaking around the envelope she had avoided opening all day. Inside that thin piece of paper was the truth about her unborn twins. Anthony knelt beside her, eyes full of worry. Andrew stood behind them, silent and unreadable. They were identical brothers, billionaires, heirs to a legacy built on secrets, and Makina, she was the maid who never expected to fall into their world. Hi, viewers. Kindly tell us where you're watching from and what time it is. Warm welcome to the family. Enjoy the story. Open it, Andrew said quietly. Makina took a breath that felt like it might break her ribs. She slid her finger under the seal. The paper rustled. Her heartbeat drowned out the storm. She read the first line, her vision blurred. This isn't your DNA. Anthony stiffened. Andrew stepped forward sharply. Before Makina could say another word, the penthouse lights flickered, then went out completely. Darkness swallowed them. A shadow moved at the far end of the hallway. Makina's breath caught in her throat. Someone was inside. Someone had been watching them the entire time. Her phone buzzed in her hand. The screen glowed in the darkness. A message from an unknown number. You opened it too soon. Her blood went cold. Anthony grabbed her hand. Andrew moved toward the hallway, tense and ready. The shadow shifted again, closer this time. Makina wanted to scream, but her voice was trapped somewhere deep in her chest. The emergency light snapped on. The hallway was empty, but the presence lingered. Someone had been there. Someone knew exactly what was in that envelope. And now, they knew Makina had opened it. Her phone buzzed again. Another message. Now everything begins. Makina looked at the brothers. Anthony's face was pale with fear. Andrew's jaw was clenched with rage. The DNA results slipped from her trembling fingers and landed softly on the marble floor. The truth was out, and it was worse than any of them imagined. Because if the twins inside her didn't belong to Anthony or Andrew, then whose children was she carrying? If you've ever opened something you wish you could take back, you understand what Makina felt in that moment. Some secrets aren't meant to be discovered. Some truths destroy everything the moment they're revealed. And Makina just opened hers. Thunder cracked outside. The rain pounded harder. Makina pressed her hand to her stomach, feeling the life growing inside her. 2 heartbeats, 2 lives, 2 mysteries she couldn't explain. Anthony whispered her name, but she couldn't look at him. Andrew was already pulling out his phone, making calls, trying to piece together what just happened. But Makina knew. Deep in her bones, she knew. This wasn't an accident. This wasn't a mistake. Someone planned this. Someone wanted her pregnant with children that didn't belong to the Harrington brothers. Someone wanted chaos. And they were watching her right now, waiting to see what she would do next. Her phone buzzed a third time. McKenna didn't want to look, but her eyes dropped to the screen anyway. Don't tell them the truth. Not yet. Her hands shook so hard the phone nearly slipped. Anthony reached for her, but she pulled back. Andrew stopped talking mid-sentence and stared at her. They could see it in her face. She was hiding something now, something the message told her to keep quiet. McKenna swallowed hard. She looked at the envelope on the floor. She looked at the brothers who trusted her, and she made a choice that would change everything. She lied. McKenna lied because she had no choice, but the truth was already eating her alive. 6 months ago, she never thought she'd end up here. 6 months ago, she was just a maid from Atlanta trying to survive. Broken, grieving, desperate for anything that could keep her head above water. Her mother had gotten sick. The hospital bills piled up faster than McKenna could count. She worked 2 jobs, sometimes 3, but it was never enough. And then the worst thing happened. Social services took Laya away. Her baby sister. The only family she had left that still felt whole. McKenna remembered the day they came. Laya cried so hard her voice went hoarse. She reached for McKenna, screaming her name, but the caseworker pulled her back. They said McKenna couldn't provide a stable home. They said Laya deserved better. That word, better, haunted McKenna every single day. So when the Harrington estate posted a job listing for live-in housekeeping staff, McKenna applied without hesitation. The pay was more than she'd ever seen. Enough to get her mother proper care. Enough to prove to the court she could bring Leah home. She packed 1 suitcase and left Atlanta behind. The Harrington estate was massive, cold, elegant in a way that made McKenna feel small. She cleaned rooms bigger than her entire apartment back home. She dusted paintings worth more than her mother's medical debt, and she stayed invisible. That was the rule. Staff didn't speak unless spoken to. Staff didn't make eye contact with the family. Staff especially didn't get involved in the personal lives of billionaire heirs. McKenna followed every rule perfectly. Until the night Anthony found her crying in the library. She hadn't meant to break down. But grief doesn't care about timing. She'd just gotten a call from the hospital. Her mother's condition was getting worse, and the caseworker had denied her request to see Laya again. Anthony didn't walk past her like she expected. He sat down. He asked if she was okay. And when she told him the truth, he didn't look at her like she was beneath him. He looked at her like she mattered. That was the moment everything started to shift. How many people walk past someone struggling and pretend not to see them? How many times do we ignore the pain right in front of us because it's easier that way? McKenna had been invisible her entire life, until Anthony chose to see her. Andrew was different. He didn't sit with her. He didn't ask questions, but he watched. Quiet. Calculating. Like he was deciding whether she was a threat or an opportunity. McKenna never expected either brother to notice her. She was just the maid. Just another face in the background, but somehow she became more. And now, sitting on that cold marble floor with a DNA test that made no sense, McKenna realized she'd been pulled into something far more dangerous than she ever imagined. Her phone buzzed again. The screen lit up in the dim emergency lighting. Another message from the unknown number. They're watching you now. McKenna's breath hitched. She looked around the penthouse, the windows, the hallways. The cameras she knew were hidden in every corner. Someone was always watching. Someone had been watching her long before tonight. Anthony touched her shoulder gently. McKenna, what's wrong? She wanted to tell him. She wanted to show him the messages, but the words stuck in her throat. Because if someone was watching, then telling Anthony might put him in danger too. Andrew's voice cut through the silence. We need answers. Now. McKenna nodded, but her hands were still shaking. She deleted the messages quickly before either brother could see. Her heart pounded so hard she thought it might break through her chest. The storm outside grew louder. Lightning flashed, illuminating the penthouse in brief, blinding bursts. And in one of those flashes, Makina saw it. A figure standing on the balcony, watching them through the glass. She gasped. Anthony followed her gaze. Andrew spun around, but when the lightning flashed again, the figure was gone. "Did you see that?" Makina whispered. Anthony moved toward the balcony door, but Andrew grabbed his arm. "Don't. We don't know who's out there." Makina's phone buzzed a third time. Her hands trembled as she looked at the screen. This message was different. This one had a photo attached. She opened it. Her entire world collapsed. It was a picture of Laya, her little sister, sitting in a car, tears streaming down her face, and in the corner of the photo, barely visible, was a hand, someone else's hand, holding her. The message below the photo was short, simple, terrifying. "Stop asking questions, or she disappears forever." Makina couldn't breathe. The photo of Laya on her phone burned into her mind. Her little sister, crying, trapped, and someone was using her to control Makina. Anthony saw the terror on her face. "Makina, what is it?" She couldn't speak. She couldn't move. All she could see was Laya's tears. Andrew stepped closer. "Show me." But Makina locked her phone and pressed it against her chest. If they saw that photo, they'd ask questions. Questions she didn't have answers to. Questions that might get Laya killed. "It's nothing," she whispered. Anthony didn't believe her. She could see it in his eyes. The same eyes that had looked at her with kindness 3 months ago when everything started to change. It was late, past midnight. Makina had been cleaning the library when her phone rang. The hospital. Her mother's condition had worsened. The doctor said she needed surgery. Expensive surgery. Surgery Makina couldn't afford even with the Harrington job. She'd hung up and collapsed into one of the leather chairs, sobbing into her hands. She thought she was alone. She thought no one would hear her. But Anthony did. He walked in carrying a glass of whiskey, probably looking for a quiet place to think. When he saw her crying, he stopped. Most people would have left. Most people would have pretended they didn't see the help breaking down in the middle of the night. But Anthony sat down beside her. "Are you okay?" he asked softly. Makina wiped her face quickly. "I'm fine. I'm sorry. I'll leave." "Don't," he said. "Please." Something in his voice made her stay. It wasn't a command. It was a request, like he genuinely cared. She looked at him through blurred tears. "My mom's dying, and I can't save her." Anthony didn't say it would be okay. He didn't offer empty reassurances. He just listened. And somehow, that was exactly what she needed. "I lost my mother too," he said quietly. "Not to illness, to indifference. She stopped caring about us the moment we became heirs instead of sons." Makina blinked. She'd never heard a billionaire talk like that, like they were just as broken as everyone else. "I have a sister," Makina whispered. "Laya. She's 8. Social services took her because I couldn't provide a stable home. I took this job to get her back. But now my mom's getting worse, and I don't know if I'll ever see either of them again." Anthony leaned forward, elbows on his knees. "You will. I'll help you." "Why?" Makina asked. "You don't even know me." "Because you're human," he said simply. "And people forget that about staff. They forget you have families, lives, pain. Have you ever met someone who saw you when everyone else looked right through you?" That's what Anthony did for Makina. He made her feel like she mattered. And that's a dangerous thing when you're supposed to stay invisible. They talked for hours that night. About loss. About family. About fear. Makina told him things she'd never said out loud. And Anthony, the emotional twin, the one everyone said felt too much, understood every word. Then the library door opened. Andrew stood in the doorway, cold and unreadable. His eyes moved from Anthony to Makina, then back to Anthony. We need to talk, Andrew said flatly. Anthony stood. I'm in the middle of something. Now, Andrew said. Makina stood too, smoothing her uniform. I should go. But Andrew's gaze locked on her. Be careful who you trust, Miss Makina. Kindness in this house always comes with a price. The word sent chills down her spine. Anthony looked furious, but he didn't argue. He just watched Makina leave, his eyes full of something she couldn't quite name. That night changed everything. After that, Anthony checked on her, asked how her mother was doing, made sure she had what she needed. And slowly, carefully, Makina started to feel something she knew she shouldn't. She started to fall for him. Back in the present, standing in the dark penthouse with a photo of her kidnapped sister burning on her phone, Makina realized Andrew had been right all along. Kindness always came with a price, and she was about to pay it. A soft scraping sound echoed from the hallway. All three of them turned. Something was sliding across the marble floor toward them. An envelope. White. Unmarked. Moving slowly under the penthouse door like a ghost, pushing it forward. Anthony moved first, grabbing it before Andrew could stop him. He ripped it open. His face went pale. What is it? Andrew demanded. Anthony pulled out a photo. His hands shook as he held it up. It was Laya. The same photo from Makina's phone, but this one was printed. Real. Tangible. Proof that whoever was threatening Makina wasn't just some anonymous voice behind a screen. They were here, right outside the door. Makina's knees buckled. Anthony caught her before she hit the ground. Andrew stared at the photo, then looked at Makina with something close to betrayal in his eyes. Who is this? Makina's voice cracked. My sister. And why? Andrew said coldly. Does someone have her? Before Makina could answer, her phone buzzed again. This time, all three of them heard it. Anthony still held her up, but his eyes were on the phone in her trembling hand. She looked at the screen. The new message was short, direct, final. You have 24 hours. Come alone, or she dies. 24 hours. That's all Makina had to save her sister's life. Andrew stared at her like she'd just become a stranger. You have a sister. And someone took her. When were you planning to tell us? Makina couldn't find words. Her throat was tight. Her chest felt crushed. Anthony still held her steady, but even he looked confused. Makina, talk to us. She wanted to, but the truth was complicated, messy, dangerous. And it started 2 months ago when Andrew made her an offer she couldn't refuse. It was a Tuesday afternoon. Makina had been scrubbing the marble floors in the East Wing when Andrew appeared behind her. Miss Makina, I need to speak with you privately. His tone wasn't warm. It never was. Andrew didn't do warmth. He did business. She followed him to his office, heart pounding. She thought she'd done something wrong. Maybe cleaned a room she wasn't supposed to enter. Maybe overheard a conversation she shouldn't have. But when Andrew closed the door and gestured for her to sit, his expression was unreadable. I have a proposition, he said, sliding a folder across the desk. Makina didn't touch it. What kind of proposition? Our father is dying. He wants an heir before he's gone. Neither my brother nor I have any intention of marrying right now, so we need another solution. Makina's stomach twisted. She had a bad feeling about where this was going. Andrew opened the folder himself. Inside were documents, legal papers, medical charts, and a number that made Makina's breath catch. $5 million. You want me to carry a child, she whispered. Via IVF, Andrew clarified. You'll be compensated generously. After the birth, you'll sign away parental rights and leave, quietly, permanently. Makina stared at the number again. $5 million. Enough to save her mother. Enough to prove to the courts she could provide for Laya. Enough to change everything, but it meant selling her body, her future, her dignity. "Why me?" she asked. Andrew's eyes were cold. "Because you're desperate, and desperate people don't ask too many questions." The words stung, but they were true. How far would you go to save the people you love? How much of yourself would you sacrifice if it meant they could survive? McKenna didn't have the luxury of pride. She had hospital bills, a dying mother, a sister in foster care, and no other options. She signed the contract that same day. Anthony found out a week later. He stormed into Andrew's office, face red with fury. "You did what?" he shouted. Andrew remained calm. "I made a business decision. She's a person, not a transaction." "She agreed to it," Andrew said flatly. "Willingly." Anthony turned to McKenna, who stood frozen in the corner. "Is that true?" McKenna nodded slowly. "I needed the money." "For what?" Anthony demanded. "What could possibly be worth this?" "My family," she whispered. "My mom is dying. My sister was taken from me. This is the only way I can get them back." Anthony looked devastated, like she'd just broken something inside him. "There had to be another way," he said quietly. "There wasn't," McKenna replied. "Not for someone like me." Anthony stared at her for a long moment, then walked out without another word. That was the first time McKenna realized she'd lost him. The man who saw her as human. The man who made her feel like she mattered. She'd become exactly what Andrew said she was. Desperate. Back in the present, standing in the dark penthouse with the photo of Laya clutched in Anthony's hand, McKenna felt that same crushing weight. Andrew's voice cut through the silence. "So this is leverage. Someone's using your sister to control you." "Yes," McKenna whispered. "And the DNA test," Andrew continued, "isn't the real problem. The real problem is that someone knows you're vulnerable, and they're exploiting it." McKenna felt tears building. "I didn't know this would happen. I just wanted to save my family." Anthony finally spoke, his voice softer now. "We'll get her back." Andrew's phone buzzed. He glanced at it, then looked up sharply. "We have another problem." He turned the screen toward them. It was a news alert. Harrington heirs linked to surrogate scandal. DNA results questioned. The story was already public. Someone had leaked it. And now the entire world knew McKenna was pregnant with twins that didn't belong to the Harrington brothers. McKenna's legs gave out completely. Anthony caught her and lowered her to the floor gently. "Who would do this?" Anthony asked. Andrew's jaw tightened. "Someone who wants to destroy us." McKenna's phone buzzed again. She didn't want to look, but she had to. The message was short, cruel, final. "Don't forget what you've already lost. You're about to lose so much more." And attached to the message was another photo. This one wasn't Laya. It was McKenna's mother, in a hospital bed, unconscious. And standing beside her, just barely visible in the frame, was a man in a dark suit, holding a syringe. McKenna stared at the photo of her unconscious mother with a man holding a syringe beside her bed. Her entire body went numb. "No," she whispered. "No, no, no." She dialed her mother's hospital immediately. Her fingers shook so badly she almost dropped the phone. It rang once, twice, 3 times. No answer. "Pick up," McKenna begged. "Please pick up." Anthony grabbed her shoulders. "McKenna, breathe." But she couldn't. Because if something happened to her mother, if that man in the photo had already done something, then McKenna had failed. Again. The call went to voicemail. McKenna tried again, and again, and again. Still nothing. Andrew was already on his phone, barking orders to someone. "I need eyes on Atlanta Memorial Hospital, ICU ward, patient name Gloria Hayes, now." McKenna's chest felt like it was caving in. She remembered the first ultrasound, the moment everything got even more complicated than it already was. She'd been 8 weeks along. Nervous. Scared. The clinic was private, sterile, and cold. Andrew had arranged everything. Anthony insisted on coming even though Andrew told him it wasn't necessary. McKenna lay on the exam table, staring at the ceiling while the doctor prepped the ultrasound machine. "This should be quick," the doctor said. "Just a routine check to confirm the pregnancy is progressing normally." The cold gel touched McKenna's stomach. The wand pressed against her skin. And then the monitor flickered to life. At first there was just static. Then a shape. Small. Fragile. A tiny flicker of movement. "There's the heartbeat," the doctor said, smiling. McKenna felt tears well up. That was her baby. A life growing inside her that would save her family. But then the doctor frowned. She moved the wand slightly to the left. "Wait," the doctor said slowly. "There's another one." McKenna's breath stopped. "Another what?" "Another heartbeat." The room went silent. Anthony stepped closer to the monitor. "Twins." The doctor nodded, studying the screen carefully. "Fraternal twins, conceived days apart. It's rare, but it happens with multiple inseminations." McKenna's mind spun. Multiple inseminations? The doctor looked at her chart, then at Andrew. "Yes. According to the records, there were 2 procedures. 3 days apart?" McKenna turned to Andrew. "You said 1 procedure." Andrew's face was stone. "Plans changed." Anthony's voice dropped to something dangerous. "What did you do?" Andrew didn't flinch. "I added my sample. The contract stated 1 child. I ensured there would be an heir, regardless of success rate." "You went behind my back," Anthony said, his voice shaking with rage. "I protected our interests," Andrew shot back. McKenna felt like she couldn't breathe. "So, one of you is the father of 1 baby, and the other is the father of the other baby?" The doctor nodded. "That's correct. Fraternal twins from 2 separate fathers. Extremely rare, but medically documented. Have you ever felt like your body wasn't your own anymore? Like decisions were being made about you without your permission?" That's what McKenna felt in that moment. She wasn't a person. She was a vessel, a tool, and these 2 brothers had turned her pregnancy into a competition she didn't even know she was part of. Anthony stormed out of the clinic that day. Andrew stayed, emotionless as always. "This doesn't change anything," Andrew said. "The contract stands." But it changed everything, because now McKenna was carrying 2 babies, 2 heirs, 2 lives tied to 2 men who couldn't stand each other, and she was stuck in the middle. Back in the present, McKenna's phone finally rang. She answered before the first ring finished. "Mom!" she gasped, but it wasn't her mother. It was a nurse from the hospital. Her voice was calm but cautious. "Miss Hayes, this is Atlanta Memorial. Your mother is stable, but there was an incident earlier tonight." "What kind of incident?" McKenna's voice cracked. "A man tried to enter her room. Security stopped him. He claimed to be family, but we have no record of him on the visitor list." McKenna's blood turned to ice. "What did he look like?" "Tall, dark suit. He left before we could get more information." The man from the photo. He'd been there. He'd tried to get to her mother, and if security hadn't stopped him, McKenna couldn't finish the thought. "Thank you," she whispered, then hung up. Anthony looked at her with concern. "What happened?" "Someone tried to get to my mom," McKenna said, her voice hollow. "They stopped him, but he'll try again." Andrew's phone rang. He answered, listened for a moment, then his expression darkened. "Say that again," he said slowly. He put the phone on speaker. A man's voice filled the room. Clipped, professional. "Mr. Harrington, this is your investigator. We found something about Miss Hayes, something that predates her employment at your estate." McKenna's heart dropped. What are you talking about? The investigator continued. There are surveillance files, photos taken over the course of 2 years, all of her, in Atlanta, at her jobs, at the hospital visiting her mother, even at the courthouse during her sister's custody hearing. McKenna felt the floor tilt. That's impossible. It's not, the investigator said. Someone's been watching you long before you ever met the Harrington brothers. Anthony looked at McKenna, horrified. Who would do that? Andrew's jaw clenched. Someone who wanted to control her. Someone who knew she'd be desperate enough to sign the contract. The investigator's voice dropped lower. There's more. The files are labeled with a code. Candidate 4. McKenna whispered, Candidate? Yes, the investigator said. And according to the metadata, these files were created by someone inside Harrington Labs. The room went dead silent. Andrew's face turned pale. Anthony looked like he'd been punched in the stomach. Because Harrington Labs wasn't just any research facility. It was owned by their father. And their father had been dead for 3 weeks. Their father had been watching McKenna for years, before she ever stepped foot in New York. Before she ever knew the Harrington name. He'd been tracking her like she was part of some sick experiment. Andrew's hands moved fast across his laptop keyboard. The investigator is sending the files now. McKenna felt like she might throw up. Her entire life had been monitored, recorded, studied, and she never knew. The laptop screen lit up with a secure download link. Andrew clicked it. A folder appeared. The label made McKenna's blood run cold. Candidate 4, McKenna Hayes. Anthony moved closer, his face tight with anger. Open it. Andrew hesitated for just a second, then clicked. The first thing that appeared was a photo. McKenna, 2 years ago. Standing outside a rundown apartment building in Atlanta. She was holding grocery bags, looking exhausted. Her hair was pulled back. Her clothes were old. She looked exactly like what she was back then. Broken. Struggling. Invisible. I remember that day, McKenna whispered. I'd just worked a double shift. I bought food, with my last $20. Another photo appeared. This one was taken outside a hospital. McKenna was sitting on a bench, head in her hands. The timestamp said it was taken 15 months ago. That was the day they told me my mom needed surgery, McKenna said, her voice shaking. I cried in the parking lot for an hour. Anthony looked horrified. Someone was watching you then, taking pictures of your worst moments. Andrew scrolled further. More photos appeared. McKenna at work. McKenna visiting her mother. McKenna outside the courthouse the day she lost custody of Laya. That last photo made McKenna's knees buckle. She grabbed the edge of the table to steady herself. In the photo, she was holding Laya's hand. Her little sister was crying. A caseworker stood beside them, clipboard in hand, and McKenna's face was twisted in grief, so raw it hurt to look at. They took a picture of the worst day of my life, McKenna whispered. While I was losing my sister, someone was standing there with a camera. How would you feel if every painful moment you ever lived through was documented by a stranger? If your suffering was data in someone's file? McKenna's privacy hadn't just been invaded. It had been stolen long before she ever knew she mattered to anyone. Andrew opened another subfolder. This one contained documents, court records from Laya's custody case, medical files from McKenna's mother's hospital visits, even old report cards from when McKenna was in high school. They know everything about me, McKenna said, her voice breaking. My entire life is in that folder. Anthony placed a hand on her shoulder. Who would do this? Andrew's jaw tightened. Our father. He opened another file. This one was a spreadsheet. Rows and rows of data, names, ages, locations, financial status, family history, and at the top of one column, the word candidates. McKenna scrolled down the list. There were other names, other women, each one labeled with a number. Candidate 1, Candidate 2, Candidate 3, and then her, Candidate 4. What is this? McKenna asked, her voice barely audible. Andrew's face was grim. A selection process. He was choosing women based on criteria. Anthony leaned closer to the screen. Criteria for what? Andrew clicked on a document titled Project Legacy Parameters. The text that appeared was clinical, cold, detached, objective. Identify suitable candidates for generational continuity outside traditional marriage structures. Criteria: financial vulnerability, strong maternal instincts, history of loss increases compliance, no significant social connections, low risk of public exposure. McKenna felt sick. He was looking for someone desperate, someone who wouldn't fight back. Yes, Andrew said quietly. Anthony looked at his brother. You knew about this? No, Andrew said firmly. I knew he wanted an heir. I didn't know he'd been planning it for years, and I didn't know he was surveilling multiple women. McKenna scrolled further down the document. At the bottom was a section labeled Selection Rationale, Candidate 4. She clicked it. The words that appeared felt like a knife to the chest. Candidate 4 demonstrates optimal psychological patterns. Previous loss of child custody indicates emotional resilience and maternal drive. Financial desperation ensures cooperation. Limited family connections reduce risk of interference. Genetic health confirmed. Selected for final phase. McKenna's hand shook. I wasn't hired. I was selected. Anthony's voice cracked. McKenna, I was a lab rat, she continued, tears streaming down her face. Your father studied me, decided I was broken enough, desperate enough, and then he made sure I'd have no choice but to say yes. Andrew closed the laptop slowly. His face was unreadable, but his hands were clenched into fists. He manipulated everything, Andrew said. The job posting, the contract, all of it. McKenna wiped her face. What about the other candidates? What happened to them? Andrew reopened the laptop and searched the files. He found another folder labeled Outcome Reports. He clicked on Candidate 1, Status, Terminated, Refused Cooperation After Initial Contact. Candidate 2, Status, Terminated, Health Complications, Unsuitable for Continuation. Candidate 3, Status, Terminated, Psychological Instability Detected. McKenna's breath stopped. Terminated. What does that mean? Anthony looked at Andrew. It means they're dead. The room went silent. McKenna's voice was barely a whisper. Your father killed them? Andrew didn't answer, but his silence was answer enough. McKenna's phone buzzed. She didn't want to look, but she had to. The message was from the unknown number again. You were always meant to survive, Candidate 4. The others were just practice, and attached was a video file. McKenna's hands trembled as she pressed play. The video was grainy, security footage, a woman sitting in a medical chair. She looked terrified. A man in a white coat stood beside her, holding a syringe. The woman started screaming. The video cut to black, then text appeared on the screen. This is what happens when candidates refuse. Don't make the same mistake. McKenna dropped the phone, because the woman in the video looked exactly like her. The woman in the video looked exactly like McKenna. Same build, same complexion, same desperation in her eyes. And now, she was dead. McKenna couldn't stop shaking. Anthony pulled her close, but she barely felt it. All she could see was that woman screaming, fighting, losing. That could have been me, McKenna whispered. Andrew picked up her phone from where she'd dropped it. He watched the video again, his face hard as stone. This is a threat. Whoever sent this wants you to know what happens if you don't cooperate. Cooperate with what? McKenna's voice cracked. I already did everything they wanted. I signed the contract. I'm carrying their babies. What else is there? Anthony's jaw tightened. There's more. There has to be. Father wouldn't go through all this trouble just for heirs. Andrew scrolled through the laptop files again. There's another folder, video logs. He clicked it open. Inside were dozens of video files, all labeled with dates going back 3 years. Andrew selected the oldest one. The screen flickered. Then a room appeared. Sterile. White walls. A single desk in the center. And sitting at that desk was a man in an expensive suit. His face was turned away from the camera. But McKenna already knew who it was. The man shifted in his chair, reviewing papers spread across the desk. His movements were precise, calculated. Everything about him screamed control. Then he turned toward the camera. Victor Harrington. Anthony inhaled sharply. Andrew went completely still. Their father looked exactly as McKenna remembered from the few times she'd seen him before he died. Sharp features, cold eyes. A man who treated people like chess pieces. Victor leaned back in his chair and spoke directly to the camera. If you're watching this, then the selection process is complete. Candidate 4 has been chosen and the pregnancy is underway. McKenna felt her stomach twist. Victor continued, his tone detached and clinical. Candidate 4 demonstrates optimal psychological resilience. Her history of loss, specifically the removal of her younger sister from her care, has created the necessary emotional drive. Financial desperation ensures compliance. Limited social connections reduce the risk of outside interference. Anthony looked sick. He's talking about you like you're a product. Victor folded his hands on the desk. My sons believe this is about legacy, about continuing the Harrington name through traditional means. They are wrong. Andrew's eyes narrowed. What does that mean? Victor's expression didn't change. Andrew lacks emotional depth. Anthony is ruled by emotion. Both are flawed. Their genetics would produce flawed heirs. This is why candidate 4 was necessary. McKenna's breath caught. He didn't want your children. He wanted his own. The video continued. Victor leaned forward slightly, his voice dropping lower. The IVF process was designed to deceive my sons. While they believe they contributed genetic material, the truth is more complex. The samples were replaced. The children candidate 4 carries are mine. The words hung in the air like poison. Anthony stumbled backward. No, that's not possible. Andrew's face drained of color. He switched the samples. McKenna felt like the room was spinning. The babies I'm carrying aren't yours. They're his. Victor's recorded voice remained calm, detached. This ensures the Harrington legacy continues through my direct bloodline, uncorrupted by my son's weaknesses. Once the children are born, candidate 4 will be removed from the equation. The heirs will be raised under controlled conditions, free from emotional attachments that compromise judgment. McKenna's hands flew to her stomach. Removed from the equation. Anthony grabbed the laptop. He was planning to kill you. After the birth, Andrew added, his voice hollow. Once you'd served your purpose. Think about that for a second. A man so obsessed with perfection that he'd manipulate his own sons, track a desperate woman for years, and plan her death. All to create heirs molded exactly how he wanted. That's not legacy. That's madness. Victor stood from his desk in the video. My sons will believe they failed, that their genetics were insufficient. This guilt will ensure they remain focused on business rather than succession. They will never know the truth. The video paused on Victor's face. Cold, unfeeling. A man who saw people as tools. McKenna felt tears streaming down her cheeks. I was never meant to survive this. Anthony pulled her into his arms. You will. I won't let anyone hurt you. But Andrew wasn't looking at them. He was staring at the laptop screen, where another folder had appeared. This one labeled Final Protocol. He clicked it. A document opened. The heading read, Post-Birth Elimination Procedures. McKenna read the first line and felt her world collapse. Subject Candidate 4 to be terminated within 48 hours of delivery. Method, medical complication during childbirth. Cause of death, hemorrhaging. No autopsy required. Body to be cremated immediately. Her legs gave out. Anthony caught her before she hit the ground. They were going to make it look like an accident, McKenna whispered, like I just died during childbirth. Andrew closed the laptop, his hands shaking for the first time since this nightmare began. Father planned everything, down to how you'd die. Anthony held McKenna tighter. He's dead. He can't hurt you now. But McKenna wasn't so sure, because someone was still carrying out Victor's plan. Someone sent those messages. Someone tried to get to her mother. Someone was watching her right now. Her phone buzzed again. The message was short, direct, terrifying. Victor's plan doesn't die with him, it evolves. And attached was a photo. A newborn baby, wrapped in a white blanket, alone in a hospital bassinet. The caption beneath it read, This is what your twins will look like, if you let them be born. The photo of the newborn baby stared back at McKenna like a ghost of the future. A future where her children would be taken from her, used, controlled, just like she had been. Andrew grabbed the phone from her hands. Enough, no more messages. But it was too late. The damage was done. McKenna knew the truth now. Victor Harrington had orchestrated everything, and even from the grave, his plan was still moving forward. Anthony looked at Andrew. There has to be more. Father wouldn't leave a plan this detailed without instructions for someone to follow. Andrew opened the laptop again. His fingers moved across the keyboard with cold precision. There's one more video file, recorded the day before he died. McKenna didn't want to see it. She didn't want to hear Victor's voice again, but she had no choice. She needed to know what he'd planned for her babies. Andrew hit play. The screen flickered. Victor appeared again, but this time he looked different. Weaker. Thinner. Sickness had started to take him, but his eyes were still sharp, still calculating. My sons, Victor began, his voice raspy but firm. If you're watching this, then I am gone. And Candidate 4 has already conceived. Anthony clenched his fists. Andrew's jaw tightened. Victor leaned closer to the camera. Andrew, you believe emotion is weakness. You built walls so high that no one can reach you. Anthony, you feel everything so deeply that it paralyzes you. You are both flawed in ways that make you unsuitable to carry on the Harrington legacy. McKenna watched as both brothers absorbed their father's words like knives to the chest. One feels too much, Victor continued. One feels nothing. Neither of you possesses the balance required for true leadership. This is why I made the decision to ensure continuity through my own genetics. Andrew's voice cracked. He never trusted us. Victor's expression remained cold. Trust is irrelevant. Results are all that matter. The children Candidate 4 carries are mine, not yours. You were never meant to be fathers. You were meant to be placeholders until I could secure the true heirs. Anthony looked devastated. He used us. The entire time he was using us. Imagine being told by your own father that you're not good enough, that everything you thought you were building toward was a lie, that your purpose was just to distract while he did what he really wanted. How do you come back from that? Victor folded his hands on the desk. Candidate 4 was selected for her psychological profile, her desperation, her history of loss. She would agree to anything if it meant saving her family. And once the children are born, she becomes a liability. McKenna felt sick. I was always disposable to him. Victor's voice grew colder. Once Candidate 4 conceives, remove all evidence. The pregnancy, the contract, the woman herself. She must not survive childbirth. The heirs will be raised in a controlled environment, free from the weakness of maternal attachment. Anthony grabbed McKenna's hand. He wanted to kill you and take your babies. Yes, McKenna whispered. Victor leaned back in his chair. The protocol is simple. Medical staff have been briefed. They will ensure complications arise during delivery. Hemorrhaging, shock, cardiac arrest, any method that appears natural. The body will be cremated immediately. No autopsy. No questions. Andrew slammed the laptop shut. I can't listen to this anymore. But McKenna needed to hear it. She needed to understand just how far Victor had been willing to go. Open it, she said firmly. Andrew hesitated, then opened the laptop again. Victor's final words echoed through the room. My sons will grieve. They will believe the pregnancy failed. They will blame themselves. And that guilt will drive them to focus on business, not family. They will never know the truth, and the Harrington legacy will continue exactly as I designed it. The video ended. Silence swallowed the room. McKenna stared at the blank screen. He thought of everything, even how you'd feel after I died. Anthony's voice shook with rage. He was a monster. Andrew said nothing. He just stared at the laptop with an expression McKenna couldn't read. Grief? Anger? Guilt? Finally, Andrew spoke. He was my father, and I helped him. I brought you that contract. I convinced you to sign it. I didn't know what he was really planning, but I still played my part. McKenna looked at him. You didn't know. But I should have, Andrew said, his voice breaking for the first time. I should have questioned why he wanted this so badly, why he chose you specifically. I should have protected you instead of treating you like a transaction. Anthony stepped forward. We both failed her, but we can still make this right. How? McKenna asked. Your father is dead, but someone is still following his plan. Someone sent those messages. Someone tried to get to my mom. Someone wants me dead and my babies taken. Andrew's phone rang. He answered it immediately. What? He listened for a moment, then his face went pale. Say that again, he demanded. He put the phone on speaker. A woman's voice filled the room, panicked, breathless. Mr. Harrington, this is Dr. Reeves from the fertility clinic. Someone accessed your father's genetic material storage. The remaining samples are gone. McKenna's heart stopped. Remaining samples? Dr. Reeves continued. Your father stored multiple genetic samples before he died, enough for at least 6 more pregnancies. They were all taken tonight. Anthony stared at Andrew. 6 more? Yes, Dr. Reeves said. Whoever took them has everything they need to continue Victor's plan. With or without Candidate 4. McKenna felt the room spin. There are going to be more women, more pregnancies, more candidates. Andrew ended the call. His hands were shaking. McKenna's phone buzzed again. She didn't want to look, but she did. The message was simple, final, terrifying. Candidate 4 was just the beginning. The real work starts now. And attached was a list of names. 6 women. All from different cities. All desperate. All watched. And at the bottom of the list, one final line. They've already been contacted. 6 more women. 6 more lives about to be destroyed. And McKenna was the only one who knew what was coming for them. Andrew stared at the list of names on her phone. We need to find them, before whoever took the genetic samples does. But McKenna wasn't looking at the new list anymore. She was looking at the laptop, because while Andrew had been on the phone with Dr. Reeves, more files had appeared on the screen. Folders she hadn't seen before. Candidate 1, Candidate 2, Candidate 3. Her hands trembled as she clicked on the first one. A photo appeared. A woman, Mid-20s, brown skin, tired eyes. She was standing outside a laundromat, holding a basket of clothes. She looked exactly like Makina had looked 2 years ago. Strong but vulnerable. Surviving but barely. Below the photo was a file. Makina opened it. Name: Tasha Williams. Age: 26. Location: Detroit, Michigan. Financial status: severe debt. Family: single mother, 1 child, custody at risk. Makina's chest tightened. She's just like me. Anthony leaned over her shoulder. What happened to her? Makina scrolled down. At the bottom of the file was a single word stamped in red. Terminated. Her breath caught. No. She clicked on candidate 2, another woman. This one younger, early 20s, black hair, sad smile. She was sitting on a park bench looking at nothing. Name: Jasmine Cruz. Age: 23. Location: Los Angeles, California. Financial status: medical debt, mother in hospice care. Family: estranged, no support system. And at the bottom, the same stamp. Terminated. Makina felt tears building. They're all like me. Desperate, alone, vulnerable. She clicked on candidate 3, a third woman. Older this time, early 30s. She looked exhausted, worn down by life. She was standing outside a factory smoking a cigarette. Name: Keisha Daniels. Age: 31. Location: Baltimore, Maryland. Financial status: bankruptcy. Family: lost custody of 2 children, fighting for visitation rights. Terminated. Anthony whispered, "They're all dead." Makina covered her mouth, fighting back sobs. Victor picked women who had nothing, women who'd lost everything, women who'd do anything to get their lives back. Andrew's voice was cold, and when they didn't cooperate, he had them killed. Makina looked at him through blurred tears. Why? Why kill them if they refused? Because they knew too much, Andrew said. Once they were contacted, once they learned about the project, they became liabilities. Think about that. These women didn't die because they did something wrong. They died because they said no, because they refused to be used, and that's what made them dangerous. Makina scrolled through each file again. Each woman had been watched just like her, photographed, studied, their pain documented like it was research. Tasha had lost her daughter to foster care after her car broke down, and she missed 3 custody hearings. Jasmine watched her mother die because she couldn't afford experimental treatment. Keisha's children were taken after her husband left and she fell behind on rent. All of them were punished for being poor, for being vulnerable, for being human. I'm the only one who survived, Makina whispered. Anthony placed a hand on her shoulder. Because you said yes. And because I'm still useful, Makina added bitterly. I'm pregnant. They can't kill me until after the babies are born. Andrew's phone rang again. He answered immediately. What now? His face went from tense to horrified in seconds. When? He demanded. He listened, then hung up without another word. Anthony looked at him. What happened? Andrew's voice was flat, empty. Someone broke into Harrington Labs 30 minutes ago. They accessed the genetic vault. Makina stood. The embryos? Gone, Andrew said. All of them. Every sample father stored, every backup, everything. Anthony's eyes widened. How is that possible? That facility has military-grade security. Someone had inside access, Andrew said. Someone father trusted. Makina felt her stomach drop. Or someone he hired to finish his plan after he died. Andrew pulled up security footage on his phone. The video showed a figure in a black coat and mask walking through Harrington Labs like they owned the place. They moved with confidence. No hesitation. They knew exactly where they were going. The figure stopped at a vault door, entered a code without pausing, and disappeared inside. 3 minutes later, they emerged carrying a metal case. The footage cut to the parking lot. The figure loaded the case into a black SUV and drove away. They knew the code, Anthony said. That's a biometric lock. You need fingerprints and a retinal scan. Andrew's jaw clenched. Or you need access to father's records. McKenna's phone buzzed again. She was starting to hate that sound. Every message brought worse news. This one was a photo. The metal case from the security footage. Opened. Empty vials lined up neatly inside. And a handwritten note placed on top. 6 more candidates. 6 more chances. Victor's legacy continues. McKenna showed the screen to both brothers. Anthony looked sick. They're going to do it again. Find more desperate women and force them into this nightmare. Andrew stared at the photo. We need to find whoever took those samples. Now. But before anyone could move, McKenna's phone rang. Not a text, a call, from an unknown number. She looked at Anthony, then Andrew. Should I answer it? Yes, Andrew said. Put it on speaker. McKenna's hand shook as she pressed the button. A voice filled the room. Calm. Professional. Terrifying. Hello, Candidate 4. I've been waiting to speak with you. McKenna's voice cracked. Who are you? The voice chuckled softly. I'm the person who's going to finish what Victor started. You see, your pregnancy was just the prototype, the test run. The real project begins now. Anthony grabbed the phone. We'll stop you. Will you? The voice asked. Because I have something you want. What? McKenna whispered. The sound of a child crying came through the speaker. McKenna's blood turned to ice. Laya, she breathed. That's right, the voice said. Your little sister. She's safe. For now. But if you want her to stay that way, you'll do exactly what I say. McKenna felt her knees give out. Anthony caught her. What do you want? Andrew demanded. The voice was quiet for a moment, then, bring me McKenna, alone, by midnight, or Laya dies. The line went dead. Midnight. That gave them less than 4 hours to figure out what to do, and McKenna knew one thing for certain. She wasn't going alone. No, Anthony said immediately. Absolutely not. We're not handing you over to whoever that was. But McKenna's mind was already made up. They have Laya. And they'll kill you the second you show up, Andrew said coldly. This is a trap. I know, McKenna whispered, but she's 8 years old. She's terrified, and she's only in danger because of me. Andrew pulled up something on his laptop. There's more you need to see. Security footage from 3 days ago. He turned the screen toward them. Street camera footage. Grainy. Dark. Rain pouring down. A woman appeared on screen. Running. Her movements were panicked, uncoordinated. She kept looking over her shoulder like something was chasing her. She was pregnant. Very pregnant. McKenna's breath caught. Who is she? Andrew zoomed in on the timestamp. This was taken in Brooklyn, 2 miles from here. The woman stumbled, caught herself against a brick wall. Her face turned toward the camera for just a second. She looked young, terrified, desperate. She's pregnant too, McKenna whispered. The footage continued. The woman pushed off the wall and kept running. Then a black SUV pulled up beside her. Fast, aggressive. 2 men jumped out. The woman tried to run, but they were faster. One grabbed her arm. She screamed, fought, kicked, but they were too strong. They dragged her toward the SUV. She clawed at the pavement, trying to hold on to anything, but it was useless. They shoved her inside. The door slammed shut. The SUV drove away. The entire thing took less than 30 seconds. McKenna covered her mouth. Oh my God! Anthony looked sick. They took her, in broad daylight, and no one stopped them. Andrew's voice was ice cold. Because they had permission. Permission? McKenna asked. Lawrence, Andrew said. Our uncle, Father's younger brother. He's been trying to take control of the company since Father got sick. He'd do anything to secure his position. Anthony shook his head. You think he's behind this? I know he is, Andrew said. Lawrence always resented Father. Resented us. He believed he deserved the empire more than we did. If he gets his hands on Victor's heirs, he controls everything. McKenna stared at the frozen image of the woman being dragged into the SUV. What happened to her? Andrew didn't answer right away. He pulled up another file, a missing persons report. Name, Simone Porter. Age, 24. Last seen 3 days ago. Status, missing. Pregnant, approximately 7 months. She's one of the new candidates, McKenna said. Yes, Andrew confirmed. Lawrence must have gotten access to the list before we did. He's collecting them. McKenna felt rage building in her chest. She's a person, not a piece of property. To Lawrence, she's both, Andrew said. How many women have been used like this? Taken, controlled, erased, and how many more will it take before someone actually stops it? This isn't just about McKenna anymore. This is about every woman who's ever been seen as disposable. Anthony stood. We need to find her. Find Simone before it's too late. It's already too late, Andrew said quietly. McKenna looked at him sharply. What do you mean? Andrew pulled up one more file. A medical record. Dated yesterday. Patient, Simone Porter. Procedure, emergency C-section. Outcome, live birth, twins. Mother's status, deceased. The room went silent. McKenna felt like she'd been punched in the stomach. She's dead? Complications during delivery, Andrew read, just like Father's protocol described. Anthony's voice shook. They killed her. They took her babies and killed her. McKenna couldn't breathe. Simone Porter had been alive 3 days ago, running, fighting, trying to escape. And now she was gone, her babies taken, her life erased. Where are the twins? McKenna asked. Andrew's jaw tightened. Unknown, no records, no birth certificates. They disappeared the same day she died. McKenna stood abruptly. We have to stop this. We have to stop Lawrence before he does this to anyone else. But before anyone could respond, something slid under the penthouse door. Another envelope. White. Unmarked. Just like before. McKenna's heart pounded. Anthony grabbed it before she could. He opened it slowly. Inside was a single photograph. McKenna looked over his shoulder and felt her blood turn cold. It was Simone. In a hospital bed. Eyes closed. Pale. Lifeless. And standing beside her, barely visible in the frame, was a man in a dark suit, smiling. On the back of the photo, someone had written a message in red ink. Candidate 5 served her purpose. Candidate 4 is next. McKenna felt tears streaming down her face. She had a name, she had a life, and they treated her like she was nothing. Anthony pulled McKenna close. We won't let that happen to you. But Andrew was staring at the photo with an expression McKenna had never seen before. Fear. There's something else, Andrew said quietly. He pointed to the corner of the photo. To the man in the dark suit. McKenna squinted. She couldn't see his face clearly, but there was something familiar about his posture. His build. Andrew zoomed in on his phone camera, enhancing the image. The man's face became clearer. McKenna gasped. It wasn't Lawrence. It was someone she recognized. Someone she'd seen every day for months. Someone she'd trusted. That's Dr. Matthews, she whispered. My obstetrician. Anthony looked at Andrew. The doctor who's been monitoring her pregnancy? Yes, McKenna said, her voice breaking. He's been examining me every week. He knows everything about my health. About the babies. Andrew's expression darkened. He's been working for Lawrence the entire time. McKenna felt the world spinning. He's been reporting to Lawrence, telling him when I'd be ready, when the babies would be ready. Anthony grabbed her shoulders. We're leaving. Right now. You're not safe here. But before they could move, McKenna's phone buzzed. Another message. This one had a video attached. Makina didn't want to press play, but she had to. The video started. A dark room, concrete walls, a single chair in the center, and sitting in that chair, hands tied, tears streaming down her face, was Laya. Her little sister looked directly at the camera. "Makina," Laya sobbed. "Please help me. I'm scared." The video cut to black. Then text appeared on the screen. "Midnight. Come alone, or she dies screaming." Makina watched the video of Laya 3 times before her hands stopped shaking enough to set the phone down. Her baby sister, tied to a chair, crying, begging for help. "I'm going," Makina said, her voice hollow. "Midnight. Alone. Whatever they want." "No," Anthony said immediately. "That's suicide." "Then my sister dies," Makina shot back. "Is that better?" Andrew was already pacing, his mind working through strategies. "We need a plan. Going in blind gets both of you killed." But before they could argue further, something else slid under the penthouse door. Makina's entire body tensed. "Not again." Anthony grabbed it first. This envelope was different, heavier, sealed with red wax, an old-fashioned stamp pressed into the seal, a family crest Makina didn't recognize. He broke the seal carefully. Inside was a single sheet of paper, thick, expensive, the kind that rich people used for important correspondence. The message was written in red ink, elegant handwriting, every letter perfectly formed. "Leave New York, or lose everything again." That was it. No signature, no explanation, just a threat wrapped in beautiful penmanship. Makina stared at the words. "Everything again." "They know," Anthony said quietly. "They know you lost Laya before. They're using your worst fear against you." Andrew took the letter, examining it closely. "This isn't from Lawrence. He doesn't do subtle. This is someone else." Before anyone could respond, Makina's phone buzzed again. She didn't want to look. Every message brought worse news, but she couldn't ignore it. Not when Laya's life was on the line. She opened the message. A photo appeared. Laya. In the back seat of a car, face pressed against the window, tears streaming down her cheeks. Her small hands were visible, palms flat against the glass like she was trying to break through. Below the photo, a text message. "She's safe. For now." Makina's knees buckled. Anthony caught her before she hit the ground. He held her as she broke down completely. All the fear, all the rage, all the helplessness came pouring out in sobs that shook her entire body. "I can't do this," she whispered against his chest. "I can't lose her again." Anthony held her tighter. "You won't. I promise you won't." But promises didn't mean anything anymore. Not in this world of billion-dollar conspiracies and dead women and stolen children. Andrew stood apart from them, staring at his laptop. His fingers moved across the keyboard with sharp, precise movements. Then he stopped. His face went pale. "What is it?" Anthony asked. Andrew didn't answer. He just turned the laptop screen toward them. More files were uploading, automatically, like someone was sending them in real time. New folders appeared, each one labeled with a name: Sarah Mitchell, Los Angeles; Kendra Brown, Chicago; Vanessa Hayes, Houston; Maya Johnson, Atlanta; Destiny Clark, Philadelphia; Riley Thompson, Miami. 6 more names, 6 more women, all added within the last hour. Makina wiped her tears. "Who are they?" Andrew clicked on the first file. A photo appeared. A woman in her 20s, standing outside a diner looking exhausted in a waitress uniform. Below her photo was the same clinical analysis Victor had done on Makina. Financial vulnerability. High. Maternal history. Lost custody of 1 child. Psychological profile. Desperate for redemption. Anthony looked sick. "They're building a new list." Andrew opened the next file. Another woman, another profile, another life about to be destroyed. "This isn't just about you anymore," Andrew whispered. McKenna stood, steadying herself. How many women are they planning to use? As many as it takes, Andrew said. Victor stored enough genetic material for at least 20 pregnancies. Maybe more. 20. 20 women who'd be watched, manipulated, and potentially killed. 20 women who had no idea what was coming for them. Have you ever felt powerless watching something terrible unfold, knowing you can't stop it? That's what McKenna felt. Watching those files upload, watching those faces appear, knowing each one represented a life that was about to be torn apart. Andrew's phone rang. He answered without greeting. What? He listened for 10 seconds, then hung up. That was security, he said. Someone bypassed the building's entire system, every camera, every lock, every alarm. Anthony pulled McKenna closer. They're coming here. No, Andrew said. They're already here. The penthouse lights flickered. Once, twice. Then they went out completely. Emergency lighting kicked in, casting everything in dim red shadows. McKenna's phone buzzed again. This time the message was a live video feed. It showed the hallway outside the penthouse. Empty. Silent. Then a figure stepped into frame. Tall. Dark suit. Face obscured by shadows. The figure stopped directly in front of the penthouse door and knocked. 3 slow, deliberate knocks. McKenna's heart hammered in her chest. The figure stood perfectly still, waiting. Then they held up something for the camera to see. A small pink backpack. Lia's backpack. The one she'd been carrying the day social services took her away. McKenna's breath stopped. The figure set the backpack down gently in front of the door. Then they pulled out a phone and typed something. McKenna's phone buzzed. The message was simple. Final. You have 2 choices. Open the door and come with me. Or stay inside and listen to your sister die. You have 60 seconds to decide. A second video appeared on McKenna's screen. Live footage. Leah, still tied to the chair, a man standing behind her now, his hand resting on her shoulder, too close, too threatening. A timer appeared at the bottom of the screen. 0, 59, 0, 58, 0, 57. Anthony grabbed McKenna's arm. Don't, it's a trap. I know, McKenna whispered, but she was already moving toward the door. Andrew blocked her path. If you go out there, you're dead. If I don't, McKenna said, her voice breaking. Lia is. The timer continued. 00, 45, 00, 44, 00, 43. McKenna pushed past Andrew. Her hand reached for the door handle. McKenna, stop! Anthony shouted. But she didn't stop, because no matter what happened to her, she couldn't let Lia die. She opened the door. The hallway was empty. The backpack sat on the floor exactly where the figure had left it. But the figure was gone. McKenna stepped into the hallway, looking left, then right. Nothing. Then she heard it. A soft click behind her. She turned. The penthouse door slammed shut, locking Anthony and Andrew inside, and McKenna outside. Alone. The elevator at the end of the hall dinged. The doors opened, and standing inside, waiting for her, was someone McKenna recognized, someone she'd trusted, someone who'd been with her since the very beginning. Dr. Matthews smiled. Hello, Candidate 4. It's time for your final appointment. Dr. Matthews stood in the elevator with the calm confidence of a man who'd already won. McKenna felt her entire body go cold. You, she whispered, you've been working for them this whole time. Not for them, Dr. Matthews said, stepping into the hallway. For the legacy. Victor's vision was brilliant. I'm simply ensuring it continues. Behind her, McKenna heard Anthony pounding on the penthouse door. McKenna, open the door! But the lock wouldn't budge. They were trapped inside. And she was trapped out here. Dr. Matthews took a step closer. You can come willingly, or I can sedate you right here. Either way, you're coming with me. McKenna backed up against the penthouse door. "Where's my sister?" "Safe, for now, but her safety depends entirely on your cooperation." Suddenly, the penthouse door burst open from the inside. Andrew stood there, breathing hard, some kind of override device in his hand. He pointed it at Dr. Matthews. "Touch her, and you're dead." Dr. Matthews smiled. "Andrew, always so dramatic. Just like your father said, too much emotion makes you weak." "And you're a monster," Andrew shot back. "I'm a visionary," Dr. Matthews corrected. "Now step aside." But Andrew didn't move. Instead, he grabbed McKenna's hand and pulled her back inside. "Run. Now." They sprinted through the penthouse. Anthony was already ahead, leading them toward a section of the apartment McKenna had never seen before. "This way," Anthony shouted. They reached a wall that looked completely ordinary, but Andrew pressed his palm against a hidden panel. A biometric scanner lit up. It read his fingerprint, then his retinal pattern. A section of the wall slid open, revealing a steel door. "What is this?" McKenna gasped. "Panic room," Andrew said. "Father had it installed years ago. Only 3 people know it exists. Him, me, and Anthony." The steel door was thick, industrial, the kind you'd find in a bank vault. Andrew entered another code. The door hissed open. "Inside. Now." They rushed in. The room was smaller than McKenna expected, but packed with technology. Monitors lined one wall, showing security feeds from every angle of the building. Supplies were stocked against another wall. Food, water, medical equipment. This wasn't just a panic room. This was a bunker. Andrew sealed the door behind them. The locks engaged with a heavy metallic sound that should have made McKenna feel safe. But it didn't. Because she'd learned something tonight. No place was truly safe. Not anymore. Anthony moved to the monitors. "Dr. Matthews is gone. He's not in the hallway anymore." "He'll be back," Andrew said, "with reinforcements." McKenna pulled out her phone. Her hands were still shaking. "I need to call my mom. I need to make sure she's okay." She dialed. The phone rang and rang and rang. No answer. "Pick up," McKenna whispered desperately. "Please pick up." Voicemail. She tried again. Same result. Anthony placed a hand on her shoulder. "We'll send someone to check on her. Right now, we need to focus on getting you and Laya out of this alive." Andrew opened a secure metal box mounted on the wall. Inside were burner phones, untraceable. He handed one to McKenna. "Use this from now on. Your regular phone is compromised." McKenna took it, but her mind was elsewhere. "My mom isn't answering. What if they already got to her?" "Don't think like that," Anthony said gently. But how could she not? After everything she'd seen tonight, nothing felt impossible anymore. Think about it. You build walls, you lock doors, you create safe spaces. But what happens when the danger comes from people you trusted? When the threat isn't outside, it's woven into every part of your life? That's when you realize safety was always an illusion. McKenna sat down on one of the benches built into the wall. She pressed her hand to her stomach. The babies inside her moved slightly. 2 lives depending on her. 2 lives Victor had stolen before they were even born. "We can't stay here forever," she said quietly. "We won't," Andrew replied. "But we need time to think. To plan." Anthony sat beside McKenna. "We'll get Laya back, I promise." "You keep making promises you can't keep," McKenna said, not unkindly, just honest. Anthony looked hurt, but he didn't argue. The monitors showed Dr. Matthews' car pulling away from the building, but McKenna knew he'd be back. Men like him didn't give up. Andrew was typing rapidly on one of the computers. "I'm pulling up everything we have on Lawrence. Bank records, communications, travel logs. If he's orchestrating this, there has to be a trail." Minutes passed in tense silence. Then Andrew stopped typing. I found something. McKenna stood. What? Lawrence made a large payment 3 days ago. $2 million. To an offshore account. Whose account? Anthony asked. Andrew pulled up the records. It's registered under a shell company. But when I trace it back, his face went pale. What? McKenna demanded. The account belongs to Dr. Matthews. The room went silent. So Lawrence hired him, Anthony said. Lawrence is behind everything. But Andrew was shaking his head. No, look at the date of the account creation. He pointed to the screen. The account had been opened 5 years ago, long before Victor got sick, long before the pregnancy, long before any of this started. Dr. Matthews wasn't hired recently, Andrew said slowly. He's been part of this from the very beginning. McKenna felt her stomach drop. Meaning? Meaning he wasn't working for Lawrence, Andrew said. He was working with Victor. And now that Victor's dead, he's continuing the plan on his own. Suddenly, the panic room lights flickered. All 3 of them looked up. That's impossible, Andrew said. This room has its own power supply, independent from the building. The lights flickered again. Then the monitors went dark. Anthony grabbed McKenna's hand. Andrew, what's happening? I don't know. Then they heard it. A soft mechanical sound, the steel door, the one that only 3 people could open. It was unlocking from the outside. Andrew rushed to the control panel. No, 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 this can't be happening. The locks disengaged one by one, heavy metallic clicks echoing through the small room. McKenna backed against the far wall. You said only 3 people knew about this room. Only 3 people should, Andrew said, frantically typing commands into the panel, but the door didn't stop. It continued unlocking, slowly, deliberately. Anthony positioned himself between McKenna and the door. Who else could open it? Andrew's face was white with fear. Only someone with Father's biometric data, and Father is dead. The final lock disengaged. The steel door began to slide open. McKenna held her breath. A figure stepped into the doorway, backlit, face obscured by shadows. Then they stepped into the emergency lighting. McKenna's knees went weak, because the person standing there, holding a biometric scanner identical to Victor's, was someone she'd never seen before. But Anthony and Andrew recognized him immediately. Their faces went from shock to horror to something McKenna couldn't quite identify. The man smiled. Hello, nephews. Did you really think Father only had 2 sons? McKenna stared at the man in the doorway. A 3rd son. Victor had a 3rd son that nobody knew about. Andrew's voice was barely a whisper. Marcus. The man, Marcus, stepped fully into the panic room. He was tall, lean, with the same sharp features as Andrew and Anthony, but his eyes were different, colder, emptier. Surprised? Marcus asked. Father kept me hidden for a reason. Anthony moved in front of McKenna protectively. You're supposed to be dead. That's what Father wanted everyone to think, Marcus said. Easier to do his work when no one knows you exist. Huh. Before anyone could respond, another figure appeared in the doorway behind Marcus. McKenna's breath caught. It was Ms. Delphine, the quiet house manager who'd worked for the Harrington family for over 20 years. The woman who barely spoke, who moved through the estate like a ghost, who McKenna had never paid much attention to because she seemed so ordinary. Ms. Delphine stepped past Marcus and into the panic room. She held up a key card, identical to Andrew's. Hello, boys, she said calmly. Andrew looked like he'd been slapped. How did you get that? Your father gave it to me, Ms. Delphine replied. 10 years ago. He trusted me more than he trusted either of you. The words hung in the air like poison. Anthony's voice shook. Why? Because I was loyal, Ms. Delphine said simply. I followed orders. I didn't ask questions, and I understood what Victor was trying to build. Makina found her voice. You knew. You knew about all of this. Ms. Delphine looked at her with something that might have been sympathy. I knew Victor was preparing for the future. I didn't know all the details, but I knew enough. Marcus leaned against the doorframe, watching the scene unfold with detached amusement. Ms. Delphine has been Father's most trusted asset for decades. She knows things even I don't know. Ms. Delphine reached into her jacket and pulled out a small USB drive. Victor left me instructions. In case of betrayal. In case someone tried to stop his plan. Andrew's jaw clenched. And you're here to finish it. I'm here to show you the truth, Ms. Delphine corrected. She moved to one of the computers and inserted the USB drive. A folder appeared on the screen. Video files. Dozens of them. Victor documented everything, Ms. Delphine said. Every step of the project. Every candidate. Every outcome. She clicked on one of the files. Security footage appeared. Dated 3 months ago. The video showed a medical lab. Sterile. White. Empty except for refrigeration units along one wall. Then a figure entered the frame. Someone in scrubs, moving quickly, purposefully. They went straight to one of the refrigeration units and opened it. Inside were vials, dozens of them, all labeled with codes. The figure pulled out 2 specific vials, held them up to the light, then carefully switched them with 2 other vials from a different container. They closed the refrigeration unit, glanced around to make sure no one was watching, and moved toward the camera. That's when they made their mistake. They looked directly at the hidden camera for just a second. Then they reached up and pulled off their surgical mask. Makina felt like she'd been punched in the stomach. It was Nadia, her personal nurse, the woman who'd been with her for every appointment, every checkup, every moment of this pregnancy, the woman she'd trusted. No, Makina whispered. Anthony grabbed her hand. Makina... She switched the samples, Makina said, her voice breaking. The DNA test. It wasn't wrong. She made it wrong. Ms. Delphine nodded. Nadia was hired specifically for this task, to monitor you, to manipulate the results, to ensure no one discovered the truth about the baby's paternity until it was too late. Andrew stared at the screen. How long has she been working for you? Not for me, Ms. Delphine said. For Victor. She's been on his payroll for 5 years, long before any of this began. Marcus pushed off the doorframe. Nadia's good at what she does. She's helped with all the candidates, not just Makina. Makina felt sick. She was there when the other women died. She helped kill them. She followed orders, Marcus said coldly, just like everyone else. Think about that. The person checking your vitals, monitoring your baby's heartbeat, telling you everything would be okay, was the same person planning your death. How do you ever trust anyone again after that? Ms. Delphine clicked on another video file. This one showed Nadia entering Makina's suite at the estate, late at night, when Makina was asleep. Nadia moved through the room silently, checking Makina's phone, her laptop, her personal belongings, taking photos, gathering information. She reported everything to Victor, Ms. Delphine explained, every conversation you had, every concern you expressed, every moment of weakness. Makina felt tears building. I told her things, personal things, about my sister, about my mom, about being scared. And she used all of it, Marcus said. That's her job. Anthony looked at Ms. Delphine. Why are you showing us this? Because, Ms. Delphine said quietly, Nadia isn't finished, and you need to know what you're up against. She pulled up one more file, an audio recording, dated yesterday. She pressed play. Nadia's voice filled the room. Calm, professional, terrifying. Subject candidate 4 is approaching optimal delivery window. Recommend accelerating timeline. Lawrence is becoming impatient. Dr. Matthews agrees we should move within 48 hours, another voice responded. Male, distorted. And the termination protocol? Ready, Nadia replied. Medical complications during delivery. Clean, untraceable. The babies will be secured immediately. Candidate 4 will be cremated within 6 hours of death. The recording ended. McKenna couldn't breathe. 48 hours. They were planning to kill her in 48 hours. Anthony pulled her close. We won't let that happen. But Ms. Delphine wasn't finished. There's one more thing you need to see. She pulled up a live video feed, security camera, real-time footage. It showed a medical facility. Clean, modern, expensive. And in one of the rooms strapped to a hospital bed was a woman. McKenna gasped. That's the missing candidate, Andrew said. The one from the street footage. Simone. No, Ms. Delphine corrected. Simone is dead. This is candidate 6. They took her 2 days ago. The woman on the screen was crying, struggling against the restraints. A figure in scrubs moved into frame. Nadia. She was preparing an IV, preparing instruments, preparing for a procedure the woman clearly didn't consent to. McKenna felt rage building in her chest. Where is that? Where are they keeping her? Ms. Delphine typed something into the computer. An address appeared. Harrington Medical Facility. Private wing. 20 minutes from here. Andrew was already moving. We're going. Now. But Marcus blocked the door. Are you sure about that? Move, Andrew said. Marcus smiled. What if I told you Nadia isn't there? Everyone froze. What? McKenna whispered. Marcus pulled out his phone. Nadia left the facility 10 minutes ago. Want to know where she went? He turned the phone screen toward them. GPS tracking. A red dot moving through the city. Heading straight toward the Harrington estate. Heading straight toward them. She's coming here, Marcus said. And she's not alone. Nadia was coming. And she wasn't alone. McKenna felt panic rising in her chest like water filling a sinking ship. Marcus watched the GPS tracker with cold amusement. She'll be here in less than 10 minutes. What are you going to do? Andrew grabbed his phone. I'm calling security. Good luck with that, Marcus said. Half of your security team is on Victor's old payroll. They'll let Nadia walk right in. McKenna looked at Ms. Delphine. You said you had backup instructions. What were they? Ms. Delphine's face was unreadable. Victor prepared for every scenario, including this one. She pulled up another file on the computer. Text messages. Between Nadia and someone with the contact name VH Victor Harrington. The messages went back 3 years. VH. Candidate 4 located. Begin surveillance. Nadia. Understood. Establishing baseline. VH. Report weekly. Note all vulnerabilities. Nadia. Financial desperation confirmed. Sister in state custody. Mother terminal. Subject highly compliant. McKenna felt sick reading her life reduced to clinical observations. The messages continued. VH. Candidate 4 accepted contract. Proceed to phase 2. Nadia. Embedded as personal medical staff. Subject trusts me completely. She VH. Good. Ensure genetic samples are replaced before testing. Sons must never know. Nadia. Samples switched. Results will show contamination. Timeline secure. And then the most recent message, sent just 2 days ago, after Victor died. Nadia. Candidate compromised. DNA test opened prematurely. What are my orders? The reply came from a different number. Unknown. Continue protocol. Accelerate timeline. Lawrence will handle the rest. McKenna's hands shook. She was hired a month before I even arrived at the estate. Yes, Ms. Delphine confirmed. Victor placed her specifically to monitor you. Andrew was already pulling up employment records. His fingers flew across the keyboard. She has direct ties to Harrington Labs, listed as a research consultant. But her real role was surveillance and manipulation. Anthony looked devastated. She was with Makina every single day, every appointment, every meal, every conversation. She played her role perfectly, Marcus said. Kind, caring, trustworthy, everything a scared pregnant woman needed. Have you ever trusted someone so completely that the idea of them betraying you felt impossible? That's how betrayal works. It doesn't come from strangers. It comes from the people who know exactly how to break you because you let them see your weaknesses. Ms. Delphine pulled up more footage, this time from inside the estate. Various locations, kitchen, library, Makina's bedroom. All of them showed Nadia, moving through spaces when Makina wasn't around, taking photos of documents, going through personal belongings, installing hidden cameras. She documented everything, Ms. Delphine said. Every moment of your life here was recorded and analyzed. Makina felt violated in a way she couldn't put into words. Why? What did they need all this information for? Control, Andrew said quietly. They needed to know exactly how to manipulate you. What buttons to push. What threats would work. Marcus checked his phone again. 5 minutes out. Suddenly, a loud crash echoed from somewhere above them. Everyone froze. Another crash. Metal bending. Something heavy hitting the panic room's outer walls. That's impossible, Andrew said. This room is reinforced steel. Nothing can break through. Ms. Delphine's expression tightened. Unless they have the right equipment. What equipment? Anthony demanded. The kind Victor kept in case his own sons tried to lock him out, Ms. Delphine said grimly. The crashes continued. Rhythmic, determined. Someone was systematically working their way through the panic room's defenses. Then it stopped. Silence. Makina held her breath. A voice echoed from outside the steel door. Calm, familiar, terrifying. Makina. It was Nadia. I know you're in there, and I know you're scared, but I need to explain. Anthony moved in front of Makina. Don't respond. But Nadia continued. I never wanted to hurt you. I was following orders. Victor's orders. But things have changed. She's lying, Marcus said flatly. Makina, please. Nadia's voice cracked slightly. They're going to kill you in less than 48 hours, but I can help you. I can get you out of this. Just open the door. Andrew shook his head. It's a trap. But Makina's mind was racing. What if she's telling the truth? What if she's trying to help? She's not, Ms. Delphine said. I've seen this tactic before. Victor trained his people to use emotion as a weapon. Another voice joined Nadia's. Male. Cold. Dr. Matthews. Miss Hayes, we don't have time for games. Open the door or we'll open it for you. The crashes started again. Louder this time. More aggressive. Ms. Delphine typed rapidly on the computer. They're using a hydraulic breacher. The door will hold, but not forever. How long? Andrew asked. 10 minutes, maybe less. Marcus pulled out a gun. Then we fight. Anthony grabbed Makina's hand. There has to be another way out. Ms. Delphine shook her head. This is the most secure room in the building. There's only one entrance. Then we're trapped, Makina whispered. The panic room shook with each impact. Dust fell from the ceiling. The lights flickered. Nadia's voice came through again, softer now. Makina, I know you're scared. I know you don't trust me anymore, but think about Laya. Think about your sister. If you don't cooperate, she dies. Makina's heart stopped. Laya, that's right, Nadia said. We have her, and if you want to see her alive again, you'll open this door. Anthony squeezed Makina's hand. She's lying. But Nadia wasn't finished. I'm going to show you something. Then you'll understand why you need to trust me. A phone slid under the door. Somehow, impossibly, through the tiny gap at the bottom. Makina stared at it. Pick it up, Nadia said. Look at the screen. Andrew grabbed it first. His face went pale. "What is it?" McKenna asked. Andrew turned the phone toward her. A live video feed. Laya, tied to a chair, eyes wide with terror, and standing behind her, holding a syringe, was someone McKenna recognized. Not Dr. Matthews, not Marcus, not anyone she'd seen before. It was a woman, mid-40s, professional suit, cold eyes. The woman looked directly at the camera and smiled. Then she spoke. "Hello, McKenna. My name is Catherine Harrington, Victor's widow, and I'm the one who's been running this entire operation." McKenna felt the world tilt. Victor's widow. A woman nobody had mentioned, a woman who'd been invisible this entire time. "I'm going to give you one chance," Catherine said through the video. "Come out of that room, surrender yourself, and I'll let your sister live. Refuse, and I inject her with something that will stop her heart in 30 seconds. She held up the syringe. "You have 60 seconds to decide." The video showed a timer starting. 0:59, 0:58, 0:57. McKenna looked at Andrew, at Anthony, at Ms. Delphine, then at the door. "I'm sorry," she whispered. And before anyone could stop her, she reached for the door's manual override. McKenna's hand touched the manual override. Anthony grabbed her wrist, but she pulled away. "I have to," she said. "It's Laya." "It's a trap," Andrew said desperately. "I know," McKenna whispered, "but I can't let her die." She pulled the lever. The steel door's locks disengaged with heavy metallic clicks. The door slid open slowly, revealing the hallway beyond. Nadia stood there, hands raised, no weapon visible. Her face was streaked with tears. Behind her, Dr. Matthews waited, arms crossed, expression cold. But McKenna's eyes were searching for Catherine Harrington, the widow, the woman holding Laya hostage. She wasn't there. "Where is she?" McKenna demanded. "Where's Catherine?" "Not here," Nadia said quietly. "She's at the medical facility. With your sister." Anthony positioned himself between McKenna and Nadia. "Don't come any closer." But Nadia didn't move. She just stood there, hands still raised, looking more broken than threatening. "I need to explain," Nadia said, "before they get here." "They?" Marcus asked from behind them. "Catherine's security team," Nadia replied. "They're on their way. I don't have much time." Dr. Matthews stepped forward. "Nadia, what are you doing?" Nadia ignored him. Her eyes stayed locked on McKenna. "I switched the DNA test. The results you saw, they were false." "We know that," Andrew said coldly. No," Nadia said. "You don't understand. I switched them to protect McKenna, not to help Victor's plan." The room went silent. McKenna stared at her. "Protect me?" Nadia's voice cracked. "Victor built a system, an automated system. It tracks every candidate from the moment they're selected until the moment the baby is born. And then..." She paused, struggling to continue. "And then what?" Anthony demanded. "And then it eliminates them," Nadia whispered. McKenna felt her legs weaken. "Eliminates?" "The previous candidates," Nadia said, tears streaming down her face now. "They didn't just disappear. They weren't accidents. They were removed. By the system." Andrew's voice was hollow. "Removed means killed," Nadia finished. "They were killed. All of them." The word hung in the air like smoke after an explosion. McKenna pressed her hand to her stomach. "Tasha, Jasmine, Keisha, they were murdered." "Yes," Nadia said. "Once they served their purpose, the system marked them as liabilities. Medical complications during childbirth, sudden hemorrhaging, cardiac arrest, all untraceable, all designed to look natural. Think about that for a second. A system so cold, so calculated that it could decide when a human life stopped being useful, and then end it, like deleting a file, like clearing data. That's what McKenna was to Victor. Data to be cleared. Dr. Matthews stepped forward. Nadia stopped talking, but Nadia kept going. I was part of it. I helped. I monitored the candidates. I reported their status, and when the system activated, I was there to make sure it looked like an accident. Makina felt bile rising in her throat. You killed those women. Yes, Nadia said, her voice breaking completely. I did. I followed orders. I told myself it was for the greater good. For Victor's vision. But I was wrong. Anthony's hands were clenched into fists. Why should we believe anything you say now? Because I saw what happened to Simone, Nadia said. Candidate 5. She was 24 years old. She had a son waiting for her at home, and when her twins were born, the system activated. I watched her die. I stood there and watched, and I realized. She stopped, sobbing now. Realized what? Makina asked quietly. That I'd become a monster, Nadia whispered. That Victor had turned me into someone who could watch a young mother die and call it protocol. Dr. Matthews grabbed Nadia's arm. That's enough. But Nadia pulled away from him. When I saw Makina's pregnancy progressing, I knew she'd be next. The system doesn't care about circumstances. It doesn't care that she's kind or scared or just trying to save her family. Once the babies are born, she's marked for elimination. Makina's breath came in short gasps. So, you switched the DNA test? Yes, Nadia said. I thought if the test showed contamination, if there was confusion about paternity, it might delay the system. Give us time to figure out how to shut it down. Andrew's voice was sharp. There's no way to shut it down. Victor designed it to be permanent. I know, Nadia said. That's why I need your help. All of you. Because Catherine knows the system exists, and she's not trying to stop it. She's accelerating it. Marcus spoke up. What do you mean, accelerating? Catherine wants the babies, Nadia said. But she doesn't want Makina alive. She's already moved up the timeline. Instead of waiting for natural labor, she's planning a forced C-section. Tomorrow morning. Makina felt the room spin. Tomorrow? Yes, Nadia said. And the moment those babies are born, the system activates. You'll have maybe 6 hours before. She couldn't finish. Before Makina dies, her mind completed. Anthony pulled Makina close. We're not letting that happen. But Dr. Matthews was smiling now, cold, triumphant. It's already happening. The medical team is prepped. The facility is ready, and there's nothing you can do to stop it. He pulled out a phone. Catherine, they're all here, just like you predicted. Makina's heart sank. This wasn't a confession. It was a stall tactic. Dr. Matthews had been buying time. Heavy footsteps echoed from the hallway. Multiple people, moving fast. Marcus cursed. Security team, they're here. Ms. Delphine moved to the computer. There's a service exit, through the maintenance tunnel. Go, Andrew said. Now. But before anyone could move, the lights cut out completely. Emergency lighting flickered on, bathing everything in red. And in that red light, Makina saw them, 6 armed security guards, filing into the panic room, surrounding them, and walking through the middle of them, calm and composed, was Catherine Harrington. She was smaller than Makina expected, elegant, well-dressed, the kind of woman who looked like she belonged at charity galas and museum openings, not the kind of woman who orchestrated murders. Catherine's eyes found Makina immediately. Hello, dear, she said with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. We've been waiting for you. Makina tried to speak, but no words came out. Catherine stepped closer. You're probably wondering why Victor's widow would continue his work. Why I didn't just let this die with him. She paused, letting the question hang. It's simple, really. Victor promised me an empire, but he also promised me heirs who would carry his vision forward. Pure, uncorrupted by emotion or weakness. She looked at Andrew and Anthony with disdain. His sons disappointed him. But his genetic legacy? That's perfection. Catherine turned back to McKenna. So, tomorrow morning you'll give birth to that perfection. And then you'll be free. Free, McKenna whispered. Catherine's smile widened. Free from pain. Free from fear. Free from life. She snapped her fingers. 2 security guards grabbed McKenna's arms. Anthony lunged forward, but 3 guards tackled him to the ground. Andrew fought back, but he was outnumbered. Marcus just stood there watching, not helping. McKenna realized with horror he'd been working with Catherine all along. Catherine leaned close to McKenna's ear. Sleep well tonight, dear. It's the last night you'll ever have. The guards dragged McKenna toward the door. She screamed for Anthony, for Andrew, for anyone. But Catherine's voice cut through everything. Oh, and one more thing. She pulled out her phone, showed McKenna the screen, a live feed of Laya, still tied to the chair. Your sister says goodnight. Then Catherine pressed a button. The screen went black, and Laya's screams filled the audio. Laya's screams cut off abruptly. The audio went silent. McKenna's entire world shattered in that moment. What did you do? McKenna screamed, struggling against the guards holding her. What did you do to her? Catherine lowered the phone calmly. Nothing. Yet. But I will if you don't cooperate. Let her go. McKenna's voice broke. Please, she's just a child. She's leverage, Catherine said coldly, and she'll stay alive as long as you follow instructions. The guards dragged McKenna toward a medical gurney that had been wheeled into the hallway. She fought, kicked, screamed, but they were too strong. Nadia stepped forward suddenly. Catherine, wait. Catherine turned, eyebrow raised. Excuse me? You're moving too fast, Nadia said. The system isn't designed for forced early delivery. If you do this now, you'll trigger complications. I don't pay you to question me, Catherine said. I'm not questioning you, Nadia replied. I'm trying to save the heirs. If McKenna goes into shock during the procedure, the babies could be compromised. Catherine studied Nadia for a long moment. Then she gestured to the guards. Stop. Put her down. They released McKenna. She collapsed to the floor, gasping for air. Anthony crawled toward her, blood running from a cut above his eye where one of the guards had hit him. McKenna, look at me. Stay with me. Andrew was restrained against the wall, 3 guards holding him, but his eyes were locked on Catherine. You're insane. I'm practical, Catherine corrected. Victor spent years building this system. I'm simply executing it. McKenna found her voice. What system? What are you talking about? Nadia knelt beside McKenna. The birth trigger. Victor programmed it into every aspect of the Harrington medical infrastructure. The moment a candidate gives birth, the system activates. Activates how? McKenna asked. Though she already knew the answer, Nadia's eyes filled with tears. It removes the mother, automatically. Once the heir exists, the vessel is no longer necessary. The words hit McKenna like physical blows. So, I die when they're born. Yes, Nadia whispered. McKenna pressed her hands to her stomach, feeling the twins moving inside her. 2 innocent lives. 2 babies who would never know their mother because she was programmed to die the moment they took their first breath. How do you process that? Knowing that the very thing you've carried, protected, loved, will be the thing that kills you. Not because of complications, not because of chance, but because someone decided you were disposable. Andrew strained against the guards. There has to be a way to shut it down. There isn't, Catherine said. Victor made sure of that. But Nadia shook her head. There is one way. Victor created a master access key, a code that can override the entire system. Andrew's eyes lit up. Where is it? Nadia's voice dropped. Buried with him. The hope that had flickered in McKenna's chest died instantly. Victor was cremated, Catherine said with a smile. His ashes scattered at sea. Whatever access codes he had died with him. Anthony helped Makina sit up. Then we destroy the whole system. Shut down every Harrington facility. Cut the power. Something. It's not that simple, Nadia said. The system is distributed, cloud-based, encrypted. It runs on backups across multiple servers in multiple countries. Even if you shut down one facility, the system continues. Catherine laughed. Victor thought of everything. He knew his sons might try to stop him, so he made the system unstoppable. Makina felt despair crushing her chest. So there's no way out. Not for you, Catherine said. But your babies will live. They'll be raised properly. Without the weakness of maternal attachment, without the softness that makes people like you vulnerable. She gestured to the guards. Take her to the medical wing. Prep her for tomorrow's procedure. The guards moved toward Makina again, but Anthony threw himself between them. You'll have to kill me first. 2 guards grabbed him. One pressed a taser to his ribs. No! Makina screamed. But before they could activate it, a gunshot exploded through the hallway. Everyone froze. The sound echoed off the walls, impossibly loud in the confined space. One of the guards dropped his weapon and clutched his shoulder, blood seeping between his fingers. Catherine spun around. Who? Another gunshot. This one hit the wall inches from Catherine's head. She dove for cover. The guards scattered, pulling weapons, searching for the shooter. Makina looked toward the source of the gunfire. A figure stood at the end of the hallway, silhouetted in the emergency lighting, holding a gun with steady hands. Ms. Delphine. Nobody touches that girl, Ms. Delphine said calmly. Catherine shouted from behind cover. Delphine, what are you doing? Something I should have done years ago, Ms. Delphine replied. She fired again, forcing 2 guards to retreat. In the chaos, Andrew broke free from his guards. He grabbed Makina's hand. Run! Now! Anthony was already pulling her to her feet. They sprinted down the hallway toward Ms. Delphine, who provided covering fire. More gunshots, shouting, footsteps pounding behind them. Ms. Delphine backed toward a maintenance door. This way, there's a service tunnel. She yanked the door open. Andrew pushed Makina through first, then Anthony followed. Ms. Delphine fired one last shot, then slammed the door behind them. They were in a narrow concrete tunnel, pipes running along the ceiling, emergency lights every 20 feet. Keep moving, Ms. Delphine ordered. They ran. Makina's pregnant body protested every step, but adrenaline pushed her forward. Behind them, the maintenance door burst open. Guards poured through. They're coming, Anthony gasped. Ms. Delphine stopped at a junction in the tunnel. This way leads to the parking garage. There's a car waiting. You planned this, Andrew said. Of course I did, Ms. Delphine replied. Did you think I'd let Victor's widow destroy everything? They ran toward the garage exit. Makina could see light ahead, freedom, escape. But then Ms. Delphine suddenly stopped. What's wrong? Anthony asked. Ms. Delphine's face went pale. The car, it's not there. They burst into the parking garage. The space was empty. No car, no escape route. Just Catherine Harrington standing in the center of the garage, surrounded by a dozen armed security guards. And beside her, holding Laya by the arm, was Marcus. Did you really think, Catherine said, that I wouldn't anticipate Ms. Delphine's betrayal? Makina's heart sank. They were surrounded. Trapped. And Laya was crying, reaching for Makina with desperate hands. Catherine pulled out a syringe, the same one from the video. Here's how this ends, she said. You surrender. You come to the medical facility. You have the babies tomorrow morning, or I inject your sister with enough sedative to stop her heart permanently. She held the syringe up to the light. You have 10 seconds to decide. Makina looked at Andrew, at Anthony, at Ms. Delphine, then at Laya, who was sobbing now. Makina, please, Laya cried. I'm scared. Catherine smiled. 10, 9, 8. Makina stepped forward. Don't. Anthony grabbed her arm. but Makina pulled away gently. I have to. 7, 6, 5. Makina took another step toward Catherine. There's no other way, she whispered. 4, 3, 2. Makina was 10 feet from Catherine now, close enough to see the cold satisfaction in the woman's eyes. 1. Catherine pressed the syringe to Laya's arm, and then the entire parking garage exploded with light. Sirens, flashing red and blue, police cars, dozens of them, surrounding the garage from every entrance. A voice boomed over a loudspeaker. This is the NYPD. Drop your weapons. Release the hostages. You're surrounded. Catherine's face went from triumph to shock to rage in seconds. How? Ms. Delphine smiled grimly. I called them 30 minutes ago. Told them everything. The murders, the kidnapping, the illegal medical procedures. Catherine's guards looked at each other uncertain. Police officers poured into the garage, weapons drawn, surrounding Catherine's security team. Drop the syringe, an officer commanded. Catherine looked at Makina with pure hatred. Then she dropped the syringe and raised her hands. Officers moved in, handcuffing guards, securing the scene. One officer carefully took Laya from Marcus's grip. Makina! Laya screamed. Makina ran to her, dropped to her knees, pulled her little sister into her arms. I've got you, Makina sobbed. I've got you. You're safe. Laya clung to her, crying so hard her whole body shook. Anthony and Andrew stood behind them, battered but alive. Ms. Delphine holstered her weapon and walked over to the lead detective. For a moment, Makina thought it was over, but then she saw it. Catherine wasn't looking at the police. She was looking at her phone, and she was smiling. The lead detective approached Catherine. Catherine Harrington, you're under arrest for... Catherine interrupted. You're too late. Too late for what? The detective asked. Catherine held up her phone. I already activated the system. Remotely, the moment Makina entered this garage. Makina's blood turned to ice. What are you talking about? Andrew demanded. Catherine's smile widened. The birth trigger doesn't need the babies to be born. It just needs to be activated. And I just did. She showed them the screen. A countdown timer. Zoroid. Srat. 6 hours. In 6 hours, Catherine said, every Harrington medical facility will receive automated instructions to eliminate candidate 4. No matter where she goes, no matter who protects her, the system will find her, and it will finish what Victor started. The police took Catherine away, but her laughter echoed through the garage. Makina stared at the countdown timer on the phone Catherine had dropped. So 5s, chime 59, 47, 05s, 59s, 46, 05, 59, 45, 6 hours until the system killed her, and nobody knew how to stop it. 6 hours. That's all Makina had left. 6 hours before Victor's system found her and finished what Catherine started. The police were taking statements, paramedics were checking Laya, detectives were photographing the scene. But none of that mattered, because in 6 hours Makina would be dead. Andrew pulled her aside. We need to move. Now. Where? Makina asked. Catherine said the system is everywhere, every hospital, every facility. Then we go somewhere off the grid, Anthony said. Somewhere they can't find you. Ms. Delphine was talking to the lead detective, explaining everything, but Makina noticed something. One of the security guards Catherine had brought wasn't in handcuffs. He was standing near the exit, watching, waiting. Andrew, Makina whispered. That guard, before she could finish, the guard pulled a weapon. Nobody move, he shouted. Police officers spun toward him, but he was already moving, fast, trained. He grabbed Makina before anyone could react, pressing the gun to her temple. Stay back, he ordered, or she dies right now. Anthony lunged forward, but Andrew held him back. Don't, he'll shoot. The guard dragged Makina backward toward a black SUV parked in the shadows. Lawrence wants the girl, and the babies, and I'm bringing them to him. Ms. Delphine's voice cut through the chaos. Let her go. The guard laughed. You think you've won? You arrested Catherine. But Lawrence has been running this operation from the start. Catherine was just the face. Lawrence is the brain. He opened the SUV door with one hand, keeping the gun pressed to Makina's head with the other. Get in, he ordered. Makina's mind raced. If she got in that vehicle, she'd disappear. Laya would never see her again. The babies would be taken. Everything would end exactly how Victor planned. The guard shoved her toward the open door. A gunshot exploded. The guard's grip loosened. He staggered. Blood bloomed across his chest. He dropped to the ground. Makina spun around. Ms. Delphine stood there, weapons still raised, smoke curling from the barrel. I said let her go, Ms. Delphine repeated calmly. Police officers rushed forward, securing the fallen guard. One officer checked his phone. He's got an active text thread. He held up the phone for everyone to see. The most recent message read, Secure the vessel. Bring her underground. Lawrence is waiting. Underground. Andrew grabbed the phone, scrolling through the messages. There's a location, coordinates, somewhere beneath the city. Anthony looked at Makina. Lawrence has a facility below ground? Victor built it years ago, Ms. Delphine said. A bunker system, medical equipment, security, everything needed to operate off the books. The lead detective stepped forward. We'll send a team. No time, Andrew said, checking his watch. The countdown is at 5 hours and 40 minutes. By the time you get a warrant and assemble a team, it'll be too late. Makina felt Laya gripping her hand. I'm not leaving my sister again. You won't have to, Anthony said gently. Laya stays with the police. Protected. We'll get you somewhere safe. But Andrew was already moving. Follow me. There's another way out of this garage. He led them to a service elevator hidden behind a maintenance panel. Ms. Delphine covered their exit while police secured the scene. They crowded into the elevator. Andrew pressed a button labeled Sub-Level 3. The elevator descended, deeper than any normal basement. The walls changed from concrete to raw earth reinforced with steel beams. What is this place? Makina asked. Emergency infrastructure, Andrew said. Built during the Cold War. Father bought access to it decades ago. The elevator stopped. The doors opened to a tunnel. Dark, narrow, water dripping from pipes overhead. Alarms suddenly blared throughout the entire building above them. Loud, insistent. They know we're moving, Ms. Delphine said. Andrew pulled out his phone. Security feeds showed guards flooding every floor of the parking structure. Dozens of them, all armed, all searching. Lawrence must have more people embedded in the security team, Anthony said. How much time until they find us? Makina asked. Minutes, Andrew replied. Maybe less. He moved deeper into the tunnel, searching. Then he stopped at what looked like a solid wall, but when he pressed a specific sequence of bricks, a panel slid aside, an emergency hatch, leading down. This connects to the old subway tunnels, Andrew said, abandoned for 50 years, but they still run beneath the entire city. He pulled the hatch open. A ladder descended into darkness, so complete it looked like falling into nothing. We climbed down, Andrew said. Stay quiet. Stay together. Makina looked at the ladder, at the darkness below, at the countdown timer on Andrew's phone. 05, 37, 22. Have you ever felt time running out? Not in the abstract way we all feel it, but literally, watching seconds tick away, knowing each one brings you closer to the end? That's what Makina felt. Every second wasted was a second closer to death. I'll go first, Anthony said. He swung onto the ladder and started climbing down. Andrew gestured for Makina to follow. You're next. I'll be right behind you. Makina gripped the ladder. Her pregnant body made every movement awkward. The babies shifted inside her as if sensing her fear. She climbed down into the darkness. The ladder seemed endless. rung after rung. Her hands were slipping with sweat. Her arms burned with exhaustion. Above her, she heard Ms. Delphine and Andrew following. And above them, she heard something else. Footsteps, shouting. Guards had found the hatch. "Keep moving," Andrew urged. McKenna climbed faster. Her foot slipped. She gasped, catching herself. "I've got you," Anthony called from below. "Just a few more feet." Finally, her foot touched solid ground. Anthony's hand steadied her. They were in another tunnel, this one older. Brick walls, ancient electrical conduits. The air smelled like rust and decay. Andrew and Ms. Delphine dropped down beside them. Above, the guards were at the hatch. Flashlight beams cut through the darkness. "They're coming down," Ms. Delphine said. Andrew pulled the emergency hatch closed from below and jammed the lock mechanism. "That'll buy us maybe 5 minutes." They ran through the tunnel. McKenna's breath came in ragged gasps. The babies pressed against her lungs, making every breath harder than the last. The tunnel branched, left and right. "Which way?" Anthony asked. Andrew checked his phone. "Signal's dead down here. I can't get a map." Ms. Delphine pointed left. "That direction leads toward the river. More exits." They went left. Behind them, they heard the hatch being forced open, metal grinding, voices echoing. "They're through," Andrew said. They ran faster. The tunnel opened into a larger space, an abandoned subway platform. Graffiti covered the walls. Old train tracks disappeared into darkness on both sides. "We need to keep moving," Ms. Delphine said. But McKenna had stopped. She was staring at something on the wall, a mark, spray-painted, recent, an arrow, pointing down a side tunnel, and beneath it, words that made her blood run cold. "Candidate 4, this way, Lawrence." Anthony grabbed her arm. "It's a trap." "Of course it's a trap," McKenna whispered, "but it's also the only way." Andrew shook his head. "We're not going toward him. We're running away." "For how long?" McKenna asked. 5 hours? 4? Eventually the system finds me. Eventually I run out of places to hide." She placed her hand on her stomach. "If Lawrence is down here, then maybe he has access to Victor's system. Maybe he can shut it down. Or maybe he kills you the second you walk into his trap," Ms. Delphine said. McKenna looked at each of them. "Then I die trying to live, instead of dying while running." Before anyone could argue, gunfire erupted from the tunnel behind them. The guards had reached the platform. Bullets ricocheted off brick walls. "Move!" Andrew shouted. They ran toward the side tunnel, toward Lawrence's arrow, toward the trap, because sometimes the only way out is through. The tunnel narrowed, darker, colder, and at the end, McKenna saw light. A door, standing open, waiting. They reached it, stopped just outside. Inside was a room, clean, modern, completely at odds with the ancient tunnels surrounding it. Medical equipment lined the walls, monitors, surgical tools. Everything needed for a delivery. And in the center of the room, sitting in a chair, was a man McKenna had only seen in photos. Lawrence Harrington. He smiled when he saw them. "Welcome, Candidate 4. I've been waiting." Behind them, the guards were closing in. In front of them, Lawrence waited. There was no escape. Lawrence stood slowly. "You have a choice to make, and you have exactly 4 seconds to make it." He held up a remote. "Press this button, and I shut down Victor's system. You live. Your babies live." Everyone walks away. McKenna's heart pounded. "What's the catch?" Lawrence's smile widened. "You give me the babies, permanently. You sign away all rights. You disappear from their lives forever." He pressed the remote. A countdown appeared on the monitor behind him. "CU, CO4, ZU, CU3, CU, CU2. Decide now," Lawrence said, "or die in 1 second." The countdown hit 0 before McKenna could speak, but nothing happened. Lawrence smiled. Relax. That was just to see if you'd panic. Makina's heart was hammering so hard she thought it might break through her ribs. You're playing games with my life. I'm showing you what's at stake, Lawrence corrected. He pocketed the remote. But the real countdown is still running. And when that hits 0, Victor's system will kill you. Whether you're standing in this room or hiding in a cave on the other side of the world. Andrew stepped forward. You can't shut down the system. Only Victor had that access. True, Lawrence said, but I have something better. I have a way to trick the system into thinking you're already dead. Makina's breath caught. How? Lawrence gestured to the medical equipment. We fake your death, stage a medical emergency, upload false records into every database the system monitors. As far as Victor's programming knows, Candidate 4 has been eliminated. The termination order closes. You're free. It sounded too easy. Too clean. What's the real price? Anthony demanded. Lawrence's expression hardened. The babies. I raise them. I control them. You disappear. Forever. Makina felt sick. You want me to give up my children. I want you to survive, Lawrence said, and this is the only way. Suddenly, the intercom speakers mounted in the corners of the room crackled to life. Static. Then Lawrence's voice, but not from the man standing in front of them. A recording. You've caused quite the mess, Candidate 4. Everyone froze. The Lawrence standing in the room looked confused. That's not me. I didn't activate that. The recorded voice continued. I've been watching you run through my tunnels like a scared animal. It's almost entertaining. Andrew pulled out his phone, trying to trace the broadcast source. Someone else is controlling the intercom system. The voice laughed. Did you really think Lawrence was in charge? He's a pawn. Just like Catherine. Just like all of you. Makona's blood ran cold. Then who are you? Someone who's been planning this much longer than you realize. The lights in the room flickered. The medical equipment powered down. The door they'd entered through slammed shut and locked with a heavy metallic click. They were trapped. Lawrence, the real one standing in the room, tried the door. It wouldn't budge. This doesn't make sense. I control this facility. You thought you did, the voice corrected. But Victor gave me administrative access years ago. Just in case you got any ideas. Anthony moved to Makina's side. Who are you? The voice paused. Then, I'm the person Victor trusted most. The one who helped him design the candidate system. The one who selected Makina in the first place. Makina felt the room spinning. You've been controlling everything? Not everything, but enough. Ms. Delphine was working on the door's electronic lock panel. We need to get out of here, now, the voice continued. I'm going to offer you the same deal Lawrence did, but with one difference. You don't get to refuse. A screen on the wall flickered to life. Video feed. Real time. It showed Laya, still with the police, still being guarded. Your sister is safe, the voice said. For now. But I have people everywhere. Cops, paramedics, detectives. All it takes is one call and she vanishes. Again, Makina's hands shook. Don't touch her. Then cooperate. Come to me. Alone. Leave the Harrington brothers behind. And I'll shut down the system. Permanently. Andrew shook his head. It's another trap. Of course it is, the voice agreed. But it's the only trap that keeps your sister alive. The screen changed. Now it showed a map, a location marked in red, deeper underground, farther into the tunnel system. You have 30 minutes to reach me, the voice said. Come alone, or Laya dies, and then the system kills you anyway. The intercom went silent. Lawrence stared at the screen. I don't even know where that is. I do. Ms. Delphine said quietly. It's the original bunker. where Victor built his first prototype lab. Andrew grabbed Makina's arm. "You're not going alone." "I don't have a choice," Makina said. "There's always a choice," Anthony insisted. But the screen changed again. Live feed of Laya. A figure in black approached her. The police didn't even notice. Whoever it was moved like they belonged there. The figure stood behind Laya, invisible to everyone else. 29 minutes, the voice said through the intercom. Makina made her decision. "I'm going." Andrew blocked the door. "We go together." "Then Laya dies," Makina said, "and I can't live with that." Ms. Delphine finished bypassing the lock. The door clicked open. Beyond it, the tunnel stretched deeper into darkness. Makina stepped toward it. Anthony grabbed her hand. "Promise me you'll come back." Makina couldn't promise that, so she just squeezed his hand and let go. She walked into the tunnel alone. Behind her, she heard Andrew arguing with Ms. Delphine about following her, heard Anthony's voice breaking as he called her name, but she kept walking. The tunnel was narrow, cold. The air smelled like earth and metal. Her footsteps echoed off the walls. She walked for what felt like forever. Then she heard it. Breathing. Not her own. Someone else. Below her. She stopped, looked down. The tunnel sloped downward ahead. She couldn't see the bottom, but the breathing continued. Slow. Steady. Patient. "Hello?" Makina called out. No response. Just breathing. She took another step forward. The breathing grew louder. Closer. Then a light flickered on at the bottom of the slope. Dim. Barely illuminating anything, but enough to see a silhouette. Someone standing there. Waiting. Makina's voice shook. "Who are you?" The figure stepped into the light, and Makina's entire world shattered. Because the person standing there, the one who'd been controlling everything, the one Victor trusted most, was her mother, Gloria Hayes, alive, not dying in a hospital bed in Atlanta, standing, breathing, smiling. "Hello, baby," her mother said. "We need to talk about why you were really chosen." Makina stared at her mother like she was seeing a ghost, because that's what Gloria Hayes should have been. Dead. Or at least dying in some hospital bed hundreds of miles away. "Mom," Makina's voice cracked. "You're supposed to be sick," Gloria finished. "Dying? That's what you were supposed to believe." Makina felt her knees weaken. "What are you talking about?" Gloria stepped closer, moving with strength that contradicted everything Makina thought she knew. "I was never sick, baby. The hospital records, the medical bills, the desperate calls, all of it was staged." "No," Makina shook her head. "I saw you. I visited you. You were in that hospital bed. Acting," Gloria said calmly, "playing the role Victor needed me to play." The words hit Makina like physical blows. "Victor? You knew Victor Harrington?" "I didn't just know him," Gloria said. "I worked for him. For 15 years. Makina's entire world tilted. Everything she thought she understood about her life was crumbling. "You're lying." "I wish I was," Gloria said. Her voice held something that might have been regret. "But Victor found me when you were just a child. Studied me. Studied you. Decided you'd be perfect for his plan." Makina backed away. "So everything? Laya being taken? You getting sick? Me being desperate enough to sign that contract? All of it was planned?" "Yes," Gloria whispered. Behind Makina, footsteps echoed. Andrew and Anthony had followed her despite her orders. They emerged from the tunnel, weapons drawn. "Stay back," Andrew commanded, pointing his gun at Gloria. But Gloria didn't look afraid. She just looked tired. "Put that away, Andrew. I'm not the enemy." "You manipulated my entire life," Makina screamed. "You let them take Leah. You made me think you were dying." "To save you," Gloria said. Her voice broke. To keep you alive. By selling me to a monster? McKenna's tears were flowing now. By making me carry children I was programmed to die for? Gloria reached toward her, but McKenna flinched away. Don't touch me. You need to understand, Gloria said. Victor had files on hundreds of women, thousands. He was going to find someone eventually, but when he found me, found you, I made him a deal. What deal? Anthony demanded. Gloria's hands trembled. I would help him, guide you into position, make sure you said yes to the contract. In exchange, he promised you'd survive, that you'd be the one candidate who lived. McKenna felt sick. You believed him? I had to, Gloria said, because the alternative was watching him choose someone else and you never knowing the danger you'd avoided. At least this way, I could be close. I could monitor. I could try to protect you from the inside. Andrew's weapon didn't lower. And Laya? Where is she really? Gloria pulled out a phone, showed them a live video feed. Laya, sitting in a clean room, safe, playing with toys. She's been with me the entire time, Gloria said. Protected, hidden. The video footage Catherine showed you was old, staged. Laya was never in danger. McKenna stared at the screen. Her sister looked healthy, happy, not terrified. Why? McKenna whispered. Why any of this? Before Gloria could answer, a new voice echoed through the tunnel. Because she's not the only one with secrets. Everyone turned. A figure stepped out of the shadows deeper in the tunnel. A man. Tall. Moving with calculated precision. He held a retinal scanner, the same type used in Victor's most secure facilities. I've been waiting for you, Candidate 4, the man said calmly. Andrew kept his weapon raised. Who are you? The man stepped into the dim light. McKenna gasped. Anthony stumbled backward. Even Gloria looked shocked. Because the man standing there looked exactly like Victor Harrington. Same sharp features, same cold eyes, same presence that demanded attention. But younger. Alive. Impossible. My God, Andrew whispered. It's not possible. The man smiled. Hello, nephews. Surprised to see me? Anthony found his voice. You're dead. We buried you. We scattered your ashes. You scattered something, the man agreed. But not me. McKenna stared at him. You're Victor. No, the man said. I'm what Victor created to outlive him. His genetic duplicate, his successor. His legacy. A clone. Victor had cloned himself. Andrew's weapon shook in his hand. Father created a clone? 28 years ago, the man said. Raised in secret, trained, programmed. Everything Victor knew, I know. Everything he planned, I'll finish. He looked directly at McKenna, including the termination of Candidate 4. McKenna felt terror flood through her. Gloria said I'd survive. The clone's smile didn't reach his eyes. She was misinformed. Victor told her what she needed to hear to ensure cooperation, but the system was always designed to eliminate you. No matter what promises were made, Gloria stepped forward. You're lying. Victor promised. Victor's dead, the clone interrupted. His promises died with him. I'm in control now, and I'm here to finish what he started. He held up the retinal scanner. This device contains Victor's complete biometric data, the only thing that can shut down the termination system, or activate it immediately. McKenna's heart stopped. What do you want? Simple, the clone said. You deliver the babies, right now. Emergency C-section in the facility just beyond this tunnel. Then I activate the termination protocol. You die. The heirs live. Victor's legacy continues exactly as planned. Think about it. A man so obsessed with perfection that he created a copy of himself to ensure his plans would outlive him. How do you fight someone who's already thought of every escape, who's already planned for every resistance? Anthony moved in front of McKenna. We're not letting that happen." The clone's expression didn't change. "You don't have a choice." He pressed a button on the retinal scanner. Suddenly, lights blazed to life throughout the tunnel, revealing what they'd missed in the darkness. Armed guards, at least 20 of them, surrounding them from every direction. "I've been 3 steps ahead of you this entire time," the clone said. "Every escape, every plan. I knew where you'd run, knew who you'd trust, knew exactly when you'd end up here." He gestured to the guards. "Take her." Guards moved forward. Andrew fired, hit one guard, but more kept coming. Anthony fought, but they overwhelmed him quickly. Ms. Delphine appeared from nowhere, taking down 3 guards before they restrained her. McKenna tried to run, but hands grabbed her. Too many, too strong. They dragged her toward the facility entrance. Gloria was screaming. "You promised! You said she'd live!" The clone looked at her with something like pity. "Victor promised. I don't." He turned to McKenna as the guards pulled her through the doorway. "In 30 minutes, you'll be under anesthesia. In an hour, your babies will be born. In 90 minutes, you'll be dead, and Victor's perfect legacy will finally be complete." The door slammed shut, sealing McKenna inside, alone with the medical team, alone with her fate. The clone's voice echoed through speakers mounted in the corners. "Begin preparations. We deliver in 30 minutes." McKenna looked around the room. Surgical lights, monitors, IV stands, everything ready for the procedure that would save her babies and kill her. A nurse approached with a syringe. "This will help you relax." "No," McKenna said. "Please, there has to be another way." The nurse's expression was empty. "There isn't." "I'm sorry." She moved closer. McKenna backed against the wall. "My babies deserve to know their mother." "They'll never remember you," the nurse said softly. "That's the mercy in this." She reached for McKenna's arm, and then the lights went out. Complete darkness. Someone screamed. A struggle. Movement in the dark. When the emergency lights flickered on, the nurse was on the floor, unconscious. And standing over her, breathing hard, was someone McKenna never expected to see. Nadia. "We need to go," Nadia said urgently. "Right now, before they realize what happened." McKenna stared at her. "You're helping me?" "I'm trying to fix what I broke," Nadia said. "Now move. We have maybe 2 minutes before backup arrives." She pulled McKenna toward a service door. "Where are we going?" McKenna asked. Nadia's expression was grim. "To the one place the clone can't follow. To Victor's real lab, where the original access codes are stored." "I thought they were destroyed." "That's what everyone was supposed to think," Nadia said. "But Victor kept one final backup. Hidden. Protected. And I'm the only person alive who knows where it is." They burst through the service door into another tunnel. Behind them, alarms blared. The clone's voice boomed through the facility speakers. "Find her. Now. Kill anyone who helps her." McKenna ran beside Nadia through the darkness. "Why are you doing this?" McKenna gasped. "Why help me now?" Nadia didn't slow down. "Because I just found out something the clone doesn't know yet." "What?" Nadia glanced at her. "The babies you're carrying aren't Victor's. The genetic samples were switched one more time. By someone even Victor didn't. Suspect." McKenna's breath caught. "Then whose babies are they?" Nadia stopped at a sealed door, entered a code. The door hissed open. Beyond it was a laboratory, ancient, covered in dust. But the equipment inside looked functional. In the center of the room was a single computer terminal, still powered, still running. "Whose babies am I carrying?" McKenna demanded. Nadia turned to her with an expression that was equal parts fear and wonder. "Yours," she said simply. "Both of them. No Harrington genetics at all. Someone switched the samples with your own eggs, fertilized them artificially, implanted them. The entire pregnancy is yours, Completely. Makina felt the world stop. That's impossible. It should be, Nadia agreed. But someone did it anyway. Someone who wanted to make sure Victor's plan failed from the inside. Who? Makina whispered. The computer terminal's screen flickered to life. Text appeared. Hello, Makina. I've been waiting for you to figure it out. A video feed activated. A face appeared on the screen, and Makina's entire understanding of reality shattered one final time. Because the person on the screen, the one who'd switched the genetic samples, the one who'd been protecting her all along, was herself. An older version of Makina, 20 years older, speaking from the future. Listen carefully, future Makina said. You don't have much time, and there's something you need to know about why this was all done to you. Present. Makina stared at the screen, unable to breathe. You're not candidate 4, future Makina said. You're patient 0. And everything that's happened was designed to create something Victor never intended. What? Makina whispered. Future Makina's expression was fierce, determined. Freedom. Makina stared at her future self on the screen. The woman looked older, wearier, but her eyes held something present-day Makina didn't have yet. Certainty. I don't understand, Makina whispered. How is this possible? Future Makina's voice was calm through the speakers. Time isn't as linear as you think, and Victor's experiments weren't limited to genetics. He was manipulating quantum variables, trying to ensure his legacy across multiple timelines. Nadia stepped forward. She's telling the truth. I found evidence in Victor's encrypted files. He was trying to create a system that would exist outside of time itself. Present Makina felt like her mind was breaking. So you're me, from the future. And you came back to... What? Save yourself? To save everyone, future Makina said. In my timeline, you died. The babies were raised by the clone. They became weapons, tools. Everything Victor designed them to be, and it destroyed countless lives. The screen flickered, showed images. A world where the Harrington Empire had grown unchecked, where candidates weren't just eliminated, they were mass-produced. Hundreds of women, thousands, all disposable. I came back to stop it, future Makina said, by making sure the one thing Victor never planned for actually happened. What? Present Makina asked. You. Fighting back. Before Makina could respond, the laboratory door exploded inward. Guards poured through, and behind them, the clone stepped inside. His expression was colder than death. Clever, he said, looking at the computer screen. Victor theorized about quantum interference. I didn't think anyone would actually achieve it. Future Makina's image on the screen locked eyes with the clone. Hello, brother. The clone's jaw tightened. I'm not your brother. I'm your executioner. You're Victor's backup plan, future Makina said. His biological insurance policy. Created in a lab 28 years ago to ensure his vision would outlive him. The clone moved deeper into the room. Guards fanned out behind him. And I'll fulfill that purpose. Starting with eliminating you. He looked at present Makina. You have one final choice. Surrender yourself. Let us deliver the babies. Accept your termination quietly. And your sister lives. Makina's knees buckled. Nadia caught her, but Makina pushed away, forcing herself to stand. Or? She asked. Or, the clone continued, we kill Laya first, make you watch, then take the babies anyway and terminate you in the most painful way Victor's protocols allow. Gloria stepped forward from behind the guards. Makina hadn't even seen her mother enter. You said she'd live. You promised. I promised nothing, the clone said. Victor promised, and Victor was a liar when it suited his purposes. Present Makina looked at the screen, at her future self. What do I do? Future McKenna's expression was fierce. You fight, no matter the cost. Because if you surrender, everything I've done to change the timeline fails, and this nightmare continues for another generation. Andrew appeared in the doorway, bloodied but alive. Guards had beaten him, but he'd broken free. McKenna, don't listen to him. Anthony was right behind him, equally battered. We'll find another way. The clone gestured. Guards grabbed both brothers, forcing them to their knees. There is no other way, the clone said. This ends tonight, one way or another. He pulled out a device, a trigger mechanism connected to something McKenna couldn't see. This is linked to explosives placed throughout the tunnel system, the clone explained. If you refuse, I collapse everything. Everyone here dies, including Laya, who's currently being held 3 levels above us. McKenna felt tears streaming down her face. You're bluffing. Am I? The clone held up his phone, showed live footage of Laya, tied to a chair, surrounded by armed men, and the walls around her lined with charges that could level the entire structure. 20 seconds, the clone said. Decide. McKenna looked at everyone. At Andrew and Anthony, beaten and restrained. At Nadia, who'd risked everything to help her. At her mother Gloria, whose betrayal and attempted protection had led to this moment. At her future self on the screen, watching with eyes that had already seen how this played out once before. What would you do? If every choice led to someone you loved dying? If fighting meant losing? If surrender meant the same thing? 10 seconds, the clone said. McKenna pressed her hands to her stomach, felt the babies moving inside her. Her babies, not Victor's, not the clone's, hers. 5 seconds. She looked at the clone, at the man who was Victor Harrington's living legacy, the embodiment of everything cruel and calculating about that system. 4. And she realized something. 3. She'd been running from the wrong thing. 2. She should have been running towards something. 1. McKenna took a breath. I choose neither, she said clearly. The clone's finger hovered over the trigger. What? I choose neither, McKenna repeated. I don't surrender. I don't sacrifice my sister. I reject your entire system. All of it. Andrew looked at her like she'd lost her mind. McKenna wasn't finished. You said Victor built a system that exists outside of time, that spans multiple realities, that can't be stopped. Yes, the clone said impatiently. Then it has a weakness, McKenna said, because if it spans everything, then it depends on everything. And if one piece collapses, future McKenna's smile appeared on the screen. The whole thing fails. The clone's expression shifted from confidence to uncertainty for the first time. What are you talking about? The access code, McKenna said. It's not buried with Victor. It's not in some encrypted file. It's biological. It's in his DNA. In your DNA. She looked at the clone. You're the key, and if you die, the system has no way to authenticate itself. The clone's hand tightened on the trigger. You're guessing. Am I? McKenna gestured to the screen. She knows, because she lived through this before. And she came back to tell me the one thing that would end this. Future McKenna's voice filled the room. Kill the clone. Break the biological lock. And the system can't verify Victor's directives anymore. It all shuts down. The clone's face went from uncertain to terrified to enraged in seconds. I'll blow this entire facility. Do it, McKenna said, because if I'm going to die tonight, I'm making sure Victor's nightmare dies with me. The clone stared at her, at the woman who was supposed to be weak, desperate, compliant, the woman who'd just become the most dangerous threat his system had ever faced. His finger moved on the trigger, but before he could press it, a gunshot rang out. The clone stumbled, Blood spread across his chest. The trigger device fell from his hand. Everyone turned. Ms. Delphine stood in the doorway, weapon raised, smoke curling from the barrel. "For every woman you plan to kill," she said coldly. The clone collapsed to his knees, looked at McKenna with dying eyes. "You can't. The system, it's already—" His words cut off. He fell forward, dead. The moment he hit the ground, every monitor in the laboratory went dark. Then they flickered back on. All of them, showing the same message. Biometric verification failed. System shutdown initiated. Future McKenna's voice came through the speakers one last time. "It's done. You're free." Present McKenna felt her legs finally give out completely. Anthony caught her, held her as she sobbed. "It's over," he whispered. "You're safe." But McKenna wasn't listening. She was looking at the screen, at her future self, who was fading now, the quantum connection breaking. "Wait," McKenna called out. "Will I see you again?" Future McKenna's smile was sad. "You're living the life I couldn't have. That's enough." The screen went black. The laboratory fell silent until alarms started blaring throughout the facility. Different alarms. Not attack warnings, emergency evacuation. "The explosives," Andrew said. The clone wasn't bluffing. "They're still armed." Nadia was already at a terminal. "I can disarm them, but I need 5 minutes." "We don't have 5 minutes," Ms. Delphine said, checking her watch. "We have 2. Guards were fleeing now, running for the exits, smart enough to know a dead boss wasn't worth dying for. McKenna struggled to stand. "Laya. We have to get Laya." "She's 3 levels up," Gloria said. "We'll never make it." But then a new voice crackled through the facility speakers. Young, scared, defiant. "McKenna, are you there?" McKenna's heart stopped. "Laya?" "The men ran away," Laya said. "I got free from the chair, but I don't know where to go." Nadia was frantically typing. "I can guide her, but someone needs to go up and get her. Now." Anthony was already moving. "I'll go." "Not alone," Andrew said, following him. The countdown on the nearest monitor read 01E47. McKenna watched them disappear into the tunnels, watched Nadia's fingers fly across the keyboard, watched her mother Gloria standing there, looking broken and lost. "I'm sorry," Gloria whispered. "For everything." McKenna didn't have words. Not yet. Maybe not ever, but she nodded. Because sometimes that's all you can give. The countdown hit 1 minute. Nadia cursed. "I can't disarm them. The system's too fragmented, but I can redirect the blast, channel it away from the living quarters." "Do it," Ms. Delphine ordered. 0047. McKenna's phone buzzed, a message from Anthony. "We have her, moving to exit B." Relief flooded through McKenna, but they still had to get out. "Exit B's blocked," Nadia said, reading the security feeds. "Debris from the earlier fight." "Then where?" McKenna asked. Nadia pointed to a service tunnel. "Through there. It's a straight shot to the surface, but it's narrow, and it's a climb." 030. They ran. McKenna's pregnant body protested every step, but fear pushed her forward. They reached the service tunnel, started climbing, steel ladder, rungs slippery with condensation. Below them, the first explosions started, controlled, channeled, but still powerful enough to shake the entire structure. McKenna climbed, Gloria behind her, Nadia and Ms. Delphine bringing up the rear. Above them, light. An opening. Freedom. 10. McKenna's hands gripped the final rung. She pulled herself up, out into the night air. They were in an alley, somewhere in Manhattan. Police sirens wailed in the distance. Andrew and Anthony burst from another exit, Laya between them. McKenna ran to them, pulled Laya into her arms, held her sister, like she'd never let go. 003, the ground shook, massive, Final. The entrance to Victor's underground facility collapsed, sealed, buried, everything inside crushed beneath tons of concrete and earth, the system that had destroyed so many lives, the legacy that had demanded so much suffering. Gone. McKenna sat on the ground, holding Laya, Anthony and Andrew on either side of her. Her mother stood apart, Nadia and Ms. Delphine watching the collapsed entrance. "What happens now?" Laya asked quietly. McKenna looked at her sister, at the brothers who'd fought beside her, at the women who'd helped save her. "Now," McKenna said, pressing her hand to her stomach, feeling the twins moving inside. "We get to choose our own story." For the first time in her entire life, McKenna Hayes was free. No one was watching her. No one was tracking her. No one was planning her death. She was just a woman, carrying her babies, protecting her sister, building something that belonged to her and no one else. And that finally was enough. But as the police arrived and paramedics rushed forward, McKenna's phone buzzed one final time. A message from an unknown number. She almost didn't open it, almost threw the phone away. But something made her look. The message was simple. 2 sentences, and they changed everything again. "Congratulations on your freedom, Candidate 4. But you should know, Victor had a contingency for his contingency, and it activates in exactly 9 months. On the day your babies are born." The screen went dark. McKenna stared at the blank phone, at the message that couldn't be unsent, and realized with cold certainty, it wasn't over. It had never been over. The real nightmare was just beginning.